apartment 5B.
You're now tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast, where we chop it up about hip-hop, R&B, sports, love and life. Hosted by Kill.
What's good? You are tuning in to Apartment 5B podcast hosted by your man Kill. As always, squad is in effect. Little sis Porsche, what's going on, miss?
Not a whole lot, Kill. How are you?
Oh man, everything is good. As good as it can be, opening up the second teen center in a neighborhood that's beefing with the teen center my first neighborhood is in. So going as good as that can go. So you know what it is. I know, Briz, the look on your face, I got it. Yeah, I feel you. I totally feel you. You feel my pain. JR, the R&B guru, what's going on, man?
Ain't nothing. Good to be here, man.
All right, no doubt. Vern out the ATL, what's going on, good brother?
Glad to be here. Glad to get it popping.
No doubt. And my man Briz, what's going on, good brother?
Peace and love, please blessings everybody.
All right, no doubt. Y'all know me, let's get right into it. I have been hyped for this show. Oh man, like for the whole week. Like I've been dying to do this show. More than when I'm ever dying to do the show, because today is all about books. And if you follow me, if you know me, I am an avid reader. Well, I was. I got 1 million books. In the past 2 years, I've fallen off of reading. But neither here nor there. I'm a bookworm. Little sis Porsche is a bookworm. I didn't know Vern was a bookworm until we got him on the show. But as you can see behind him is nothing but books. I called Briz, he wanted in. JR wanted in. So we are talking about our top 5 musical books. I feel like it's nothing but a blessing that people have been reaching out. Like Kill, you've been shouting out books. What's a good list of books? I was on my man, my people's Where's Buffy podcast, and I'm shouting out books. I'm like now like the book dealer, like I'm a drug dealer. Like I come on your podcast and I'm gonna shout out some books. So that's what I'm becoming known for. So we are looking at that. We're gonna have some honorable mentions and everything like that. Peace to the blessed girl who's over there in the chat. Porsche, ladies first. Why don't you set us off?
You can go first, Gil.
No.
Please. Okay, fine. Fine. My favorite book of like that I've read in recent years is this one right here, No Half Steppin'. I didn't realize how dope this book. You hear about the Latin Quarter, you hear about the accounts of the Latin Quarter and people talking about it, referring to it and all of that. But until you really read this book, you don't really get a good understanding of how integral it was to hip hop at the time. How many people went through there, how it shifted, how Latin Quarters actually shifted styles, rapping, like battling, things like that. And then it permeated into what was actually going on again in the streets and then on wax. So this book gives you all of that, and it's set up in sections so that it talks about sort of the progression and how things that were going on in the Latin Quarters affected those particular segments of hip hop. And then on top of that, there's all these like dope pictures that are super rare from the crowd, from the rappers, from DJ Red Alert, like all of them. It's just, it's such a time capsule of hip hop, and it's so important. So if you haven't read it, please get it and keep it in print. I know people are talking about, I got this audiobook and I got this on this digital, and I'm like, no, keep these books in print, because if we're not purchasing them, they will eventually stop printing them, and then what do we do? So No Half Steppin', this is my number 1 book of all time. So
that's dope. Everybody who knows me knows I love that book. Latin Quarters, number 1. Let me start off. I apologize, Porsche. I'm gonna get to that. Number 1, Apartment 5B is sponsored by So What's the Scenario Game. You gotta cop yours. Get it. SoWhatGames.com. Use the promo code Apartment 5B. You will get free shipping. Yeah, I know we're talking about getting out of quarantine, but I've spent a lot of money on games, Monopoly, or, Who Dat, Who Phone, Who This, all these games. Everything we do on the timeline, arguing about hip hop every day, right here. So go to whatsgames.com. What's the scenario? Use the promo code Apartment5B. You get free shipping.
SoWhatGames.com, right?
SoWhatGames.com. I apologize. SoWhatGames.com. And next week, we'll actually be trying to play this game online with the brother who made the game. So it's going to be very dope. Black-owned game, so you guys support that. Couple of things I want to say real quick, and then we're going to get back to course with this book. One, I think one of the dopest things is that more and more people have been asking me, Kill, what's good books to read? What's good books to read? So there's that. Two, I forgot, and I apologize, 46 years old brain don't get it. One of my peoples on the TL said, have you done a show like this? Shouting out your top 5 books and everything like that. And I was like, no, how? I didn't think of that. I have no idea. So I want to shout him out for doing that. Another thing about books that I encourage people and I challenge people to do is look into the author first. Because one of the things that I love about the book Porsche just had up, Ain't No Half Stepping About the Latin Quarters, is it's written by Paradise Gray, who was in X-Clan and who actually ran the Latin Quarters. So, because what's happening now is the same way everybody raps, everybody produces, everybody DJs, anybody can write a book right now. So these bozos and mofos who are on Twitter can write a book, and if it looks interesting enough, people just go buy it. And I'm like, just slow down, look at the author. You know what I mean? If you don't know the author, Google the author. Look at their social media. Because there are books that look very dope, but then you find out it wasn't written right. So I just always challenge and encourage people to do your research before you just go out and buy a book and everything like that. But back to what Porsche saying about, half stepping again, because Paradise Gray ran the Latin Quarters, you're going to get incredible stories that you just couldn't get from somebody like me who's never been to the Latin Quarters. Because that's what we're finding out too. A lot of people are writing about things in places they've never been and writing about things they've never done. So that's why I'm always like encouraging people to look at the author. So you got so many dope stories. And for years, I thought Public Enemy was the core reason that people stopped wearing gold chains and started wearing African medallions. But from reading this book, you found out that it really started at the Latin Quarters because everybody was getting robbed and jumped and beat up for their gold chains. And to promote peace, they said, okay, well, if people are wearing African medallions, nobody's going to try and snatch that. So that's where that shift in hip hop actually came from, was the Latin Quarters. So again, very dope book, Porsche. I definitely co-signed it. The first book I have up, you know what? I don't even know where to go with this. I'm going to start with this. I'm going to start with All You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald S. Passman. This book was given to me in maybe 1994 by my OG who hired me at the radio station, who was managing my other OG, a kid called Roots, who's a music producer. This is the book that Master P gave everybody on No Limit to read and everything. Like, this is the music business Bible right here. So to me, if you want to get into this industry in any kind of way, if you want to get into, rapping or producing or songwriting or publishing, you have to read this book. I've always been, and people say I'm kind of harsh for it, but in 2021, if you get jerked, I feel like Avon talking to Stringer, that shit is on you, okay? Because there's way too much information out here for people to be still getting jerked in 2021. Tip told me when I was 16, record business is shady. You know what I mean? So it's only gotten shadier. So to me, if you want to be anything in this record business, if whatever you want to do, or in any business, if you want to get into scripts, if you want to get into different things, find a book that speaks to that. But if you want to put all your energy and emphasis into this music business, you have to read this book. So that's the first thing, All You Need to Know About the Music Industry by Donald S. Passman. Of course, they've gotten, newer versions of this that talk about streaming and everything else and how the laws have changed. But again, please, 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 everybody who sends me their music, I'm going to start asking y'all, have y'all read this book? When me and my people was back in Philly back in 97, we started a company called Starving Arts. The first meeting, we all went to Barnes and Nobles, and I made everybody purchase this book. They was like, nah, Kill, we good, we trust you. I was like, I don't want to hear this shit, because when we blow up and shit goes sideways, I don't want nobody talking about, oh, Kill, you said to do. Nope. Then before every meeting, we would talk about the chapter that we had to, I was giving homework out, and we had to talk about, so everybody could understand what was going on. So all you need to know about the music business, Donald S. Passman, check that out. Vern, what you got up for your first book, good brother?
All right, my first one is by Dan Charnas. It's called The Big Payback. It's over 600 pages, and as you see, these little footnotes, I got them all highlighted. It talks about everything from, basically how hip hop got its start, how Nelson George was young, started writing. Let's see, how DJ Red Alert got his start. Talks about Chris Lighty, how he got his start and how he, started brokering deals in the music industry. Jazzy Jeff, it's all kind of crazy backstories. How they had to beg Chuck D to even be a rapper. He was like, man, I'm too old to do this. Talked about how Cash Money jerked Wendy Day after she negotiated the deal, for them. How she jerked them out. How they jerked her out of her money. It's just full of backstories. It's a huge book, and a lot of people get intimidated by it. Man, but it was a page turn. I think I read it over a Christmas break one year. So yeah, I'm gonna say Dan Charnas, The Big Payback.
The funny thing is, the good brother Vern, he sent me a copy. This is the cover right here. Here's the thing, yo, because what Vern said is exactly true. This book, I got this book in the mail, and I was like, God, I just looked at the number of pages. I was like, but I got to dive into it, because Vern has been championing this book for so long. Like I said, he sent it to me on the love. So I got to dive into this, but just wanted everybody to see what the cover is, because I know a lot of times with people, they need to see the cover. The Big Payback, definitely a dope book off the cosign of Vern. Briz, what you got for your first joint?
Oh man, my first joint was actually Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business. I read that book. It was actually given to us my first year at Full Sail back in 2000. And I just, piggybacking off of what you were talking about, just learning about, back then it was the 5 major labels. And then when the new edition came out, I think it was 2 years after that, it was the 3 major labels. And even now today, it's like the 2 major labels. Right. And I remember originally it was 6. So it just it goes to show you what direction the business was taking. So I definitely co-signed that book as well. But skipping past that, since you got that one, the next book that I read that I felt was very impactful for me was and disclaimer, I'm a book giver. I give away majority of my books. The only books I keep are the ones that are like real sentimental.
I don't lend books no more. I've lent out books. I
don't expect them back. I don't even expect them back.
Beautiful.
I just say,
you're a beautiful brother, man.
You are. You are
beautiful
an
brother.
angel. You really are. I will never. I would never give out a book.
I've never given away a day in my life. So God bless you.
I will tell you this. The reason why I've done it before, and it started once when I thought I lost a book and bought another copy, and then I found the original book, and then I came across somebody, we were talking about something, and I gave him a book, and then the feeling that this person got, the feeling that I saw on this person's face made me say, you know what, I have the type of memory that I read the information, I absorb it, and it's in there for good. So I'm always willing to say, especially for people who I know aren't going to go out and buy a book or go out and do something, I'll be like, you know what, here, take this book. And most likely it's like a business card. If you write on it, the people are less likely to throw it away. So if I give somebody a book or something like that, I know it's going to get, and I said, when you get done with it, pass it on. Give it to somebody else. Give it to somebody else.
That's dope. You know what? I have done that once. I did that once with the 5 Love Languages by, I think, Thomas Rainey. I passed it on to a couple and told them, once you're done with it, you pass it on to another couple. Yeah. But that's one out of 100,000 books. But neither here nor there. I got you.
But the second book, which was also probably one of the most inspiring books for me, was this one. It's the Men of Def Jam, and it's the story behind the rise of Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons, and how they navigated, building Def Jam from Russell kind of just invading Rick's dorm room to all the way to where then they were able to sell the company. So I thought it was a really good book, and just the history in it, and all the different like hustles. Like Russell's just really talking about the hustle, how many different ways he had to hustle in the business, with all the different lies he had to tell and like everything. It's just like it was good for me to read that, because then it really just showed the temperature and attitude of the label and what the direction in which they were trying to go in the beginning. So that's probably one of my the ones that I committed to memory early on in my career.
That's dope. Vern, you was about to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in on that. In that book, The Big Payback, I realized that Rick Rubin was responsible for signing the dope artists, because Russell signed whack artists.
Mm-hmm.
He had the R&B label and stuff. So yeah, that made me think of that when you said that about Russell.
Yeah, and Russ even talks about, like, they talk about it in that book as well. Like, Russell was really just about the hustle, man. Like, he was really just about whatever he thought could keep getting into those offices with I guess you want to call them the gatekeepers, you know what I mean? And Rick was really just about the music, you know what I mean? We see a lot of partnerships like that, and in business, you kind of need that. You need the one person who, is more of the capitalist, and you need the one person that's like the creative. So you got Ben Franklin and Nikola Tesla, you know what I mean? So, and that's kind of how I looked at that relationship.
Yeah, because like you said, Russell, because I had the same book, just a hard copy, but like you said, Russell was, the mouth that was going to get it done. You know what I mean? Rick would have signed the groups and would have just been having records sitting in his dorm room in NYU. You know what I mean? But Russell was the dude who was like, oh, I know Curtis Blow. I know, you know what I mean? Like, I know these people. I'm the one who can, so like you said, you definitely need that. You need that. What's going on, good brother Ed?
Eddie.
Hey, I'm good, man. I miss you guys, you know what I mean?
Nice to see you.
Yeah, man, I'm here. I'm on the East Coast. So I'm actually, my pops had some surgeries, so I'm out here, helping him out, supporting. I got some time. We just finished watching the Knicks win, so.
All right, that's a good thing. Nothing doper than watching the Knicks game with Pop. That's dope. That's definitely dope. JR, what you got for your first book, good brother?
All right, so everybody, my favorite book is actually Dream Girl, My Life is a Supreme by Mary Wilson. That's my favorite book. It will always be, because that's the first book that I read from my mom. And she actually helped me read the book. And from there, that's why I'm such a Motown lover, because of that. And it was like to know the ins and outs and what was going on in that label, and to know, like, when the girls started realizing that Diana was getting pushed to the front and they were getting pushed to the back, and it wasn't three of them anymore. And the moment they realized this, and the moment when, Holla Doja Holla was told that they only can work with the Supremes, and it was just a lot going on that you didn't really know. And it was like, wow. And it does make you look at Diana a little funny after reading the book. It's like, damn, she like that. But at the end of the day, it's like, Mary said at the end, you really don't know, we didn't have any lessons. We didn't know anything. We just kind of went with what we were supposed to. And, that's how things go. So it was a dope book for real. And, RIP to her. But yeah, my Dream Girl, My Life is a Supreme. Dope book.
Now, I got questions.
Yes.
Number one, you said your mother helped you read this book. So how old were you when you read this book?
6.
Okay.
You're so cute.
So he's a fucking alien. He's reading autobiographies at 6. We could just start right there.
Because I was asking her too many questions. Once she got me on it, and I was like, well, who's this and who's this and who's this? She was like, you know what? We're going to start you reading. That's why I love reading autobiographies. So that's a lot on mine. So
number 2, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Mary Wilson. Now, like everybody who's watching, I'm not a big Motown dude. Keep in mind, I'm 47. You know what I mean? I was born in 74. So just keep this in mind. That's why this dude is an alien again, because he's 17 years younger than me and knows a million times more. But whenever I looked at the Supremes, I did look at it like Diana Ross and them 2 other chicks. No disrespect. I'm just saying, y'all know me. I'll say the things that people don't want to say.
Yeah.
That it was those other chicks. So, I mean, of course, I've heard the name Mary Wilson, but do you feel like, I feel like 20 years from now, people are going to be like Destiny's Child, Beyonce and that dark-skinned chick and the other chick. Like, is that how Mary Wilson? Is that how she felt with the group? Like,
no, because you got to think in the beginning they were the no-hit Supremes at all, so they couldn't get nothing. Like Diana was singing lead on some people don't know that she sung lead, it didn't do nothing. Flo would sing lead, it didn't go nowhere. Finally, it hit. So at first it was like, let's be three of them. Let's be Flo, Diana, and Mary. But then once Barry realized this is my token girl to take me over to that mainstream crossover appeal, I'm pushing her, because he actually wanted her to leave in 1966 when they were big. And finally the executive told him that wouldn't be a good move. So if you start hearing the later Supreme song, Mary and Flo ain't even singing on them. It's the Dantes are the ones that's singing on it. It's not even them. So they started pushing Diana to the front, and eventually it was like they changed it, and Flo was like, I can't take it. Once they started changing Diana Ross and the Supreme, Flo couldn't handle that. She was like, that's not fair. We're all equal.
All right, third question. I don't feel like, and I may be the minority in this, I feel like, me and T used to be like, yo, that's messed up. Let Kelly sing. Let Michelle sing. Beyonce, stop hogging the stage all the time.
Right.
Then when they did let him sing, we was like, no, you can get back to Beyonce. We apologize. So, could Mary and Flo really sing? Because you know how it is for a lot of 90s and 80s like groups. Like, it's like you got the lead singer and then you got the two other people who kind of just, you know what I mean? But this is the 60s. So could all three of them sing? Like, what put Diana in the front? Barry said, you're the cutest one, or how did she get pushed to the front?
It's because she had it. It's just you have it or you don't. Diana had it. She had the stage presence. She had the personality. She had all that.
Okay.
Flo, she could sing. People tried to kind of like, she had like a soul like Aretha, they would say. And if you listen to some of the solos that she did do, you can hear it. But she wasn't no Aretha, please. I'm not saying that, people. No. But, at the end of the day, she had that soul to her. Mary could sing too. They sung on a lot of B-sides or album tracks, but Diana was the focus. She had it. Okay. And once they realized this was the formula that worked, they kept it. You know what I mean? Like, they kept it for what it was. So you can't be mad at him. I ain't mad at Barry, but at the end of the day, you can be. I mean, you fucking us. So
I want to check out the book because I've heard about it before, but I've always, again, I've looked at it from the modern day standpoint. Would I want to read a book about Destiny's Child from Michelle's standpoint? Probably not. So I think for years, that's how I looked at that book. Like, would I want to read about the Supremes from Mary Wilson's standpoint? Probably not. But if you're co-signing it, and that's your
when you read Diana is gonna act like, oh, she was, she act like, to me when I read hers, it's act like she was kind of like she want to be the victim of everything. It wasn't her fault. It wasn't. Nah.
Well, I mean, I feel like stuff like that. It's gonna be like an episode of Martin. You're gonna have Tommy version, you're gonna have Martin version, you're gonna have Gina version, you're gonna have Cole version. So I'm sure nobody's just gonna keep it 100.
Right. Everybody it's three sides in the truth, honestly.
And what's the name of it?
It's Dream Girl, My Life as a Supreme.
All right, no doubt. Eddie, what you got for your first book, good brother?
All right, so the first book I got is not a book I own, but I picked it up at the library. This was before COVID, when the library was still open, taking my kid to get his books, and this book caught my eye by Darryl McDaniels, aka DMC of Run DMC, and the title caught my eye even more. It's called 10 Ways Not to Commit Suicide. And my wife clowned me. Like, she saw the book on the coffee table. She's like, you're gonna leave that book on the coffee table? Some people are gonna come in, they're gonna think you're suicidal. But the book, on the surface, it does address, I guess if anyone dealing with depression or anything like that, it is a good book to read. It doesn't address that, but not on the surface. For a hip hop head, you get a lot of insight on the dynamic of Run DMC as a group from DMC's perspective. Now, he's very honest about his shortcomings, about his battles with like alcoholism and stuff like that. You know, he says, you know, there are certain times when, you know, because of that, he wasn't all there, but he also kind of explains what kind of led to that. You know, he was like a lot of, you know, early, you know, MCs and hip hop has like, there's some nerd aspect to it. You know, he was into comics. He was into, you know, all that stuff. You know, he said he wanted to be a comic book artist. So that was really interesting. He kind of got into it. You know, he liked writing the rhymes and all that. But, you know, obviously, you know, Run and, you know, Russell Simmons being, you know, Run's brother and all that. They were more of the business mind. So, you know, they made more decisions. And so then DMC kind of went along with it. So, you know, a lot of those so-so stuff, like he talked about, like, maybe not being so crazy about the Walk This Way rock collabos. He talked about like you know, the whole what was it, the Down with the King album when they shaved their heads and all that stuff. You know, he talked about that, like he wasn't all for it, but and he also talked about how you know Jam Master Jay was basically his best friend in the group. You know, and he said if it wasn't for Jam Master Jay, like he probably wouldn't have stuck around the group that long, you know, because he kind of felt like they had a real good rapport, and how, you know, he was already dealing with some depression just for some personal stuff. But then after Jam Master Jay passed, like it just kind of took it to a whole nother level. So it's a really dope book. Like I said, you know, from his perspective, his personal kind of teaching folks like how to deal with that depression, but also inside look on the dynamics of Run DMC, like kind of
and,
what
and
led
Ed,
to.
You said the name of it is the 10 Ways Not to Commit Suicide.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a crazy name, I know, but it's a good.
No, I mean, it's an eye catcher. It's an eye catcher is what you need. I want to peep that just for the simple fact I've always wondered, you know, because for people who don't know, back in the day, you know, the whole intro to a Run DMC show was DMC would come out, then Jay would be out, and they'd be on the turntables. They'd be like, "Yo, we gotta bring out Run," and they do the whole Run routine. And I was just like, it makes me think of oh God, I can't think of the movie. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'll forget Talladega Nights. It's just like one of those times where it's like, did DMC ever be like, yo, can I come out first? Can I come out second? Run? Like, can you come out? And then Jay scratched it. No? Okay, I'll just keep doing it. Like, can I be first one time, Bobby? Like, nah. You know. So I would love to, I definitely am interested in that joint. Because, yeah, and I'm just shocked, like you said, that Jay was his best friend. Because just, you know, out of assumption, I would just assume Run. I mean, no, I just got these pop figures right there. I just would have figured that Run was, you know, his best friend and not Jay. So definitely, I definitely want to check that joint out. Porsche, what you got up next, miss?
My next one is Can't Stop, Won't Stop by Jeff Chang. And Jeff Chang is a pretty well-known writer. He's been writing for like hip hop publications throughout like life, I guess. This book is why I love it so much is because it's a pretty big book. It's about just under 500 pages. It reads very easily, but it's such a well mapped out history of hip hop from back when like it started in the Bronx, and DJ Kool Herc actually writes the foreword for this. So it starts off with Kool Herc. It starts off with the Bronx, how it was under Reagan, and it talks about it in a political sense, like as well as just he lays he paints the picture of what it was like at the time. So this is really good for like young people who are really interested in the history of hip hop, because it's probably the most specific and most elaborate account of how it was at the time that you're going to get in a book, unless you talk to someone directly. But in a book form, this is going to be the best way to do it. And just quickly, I'll just read like how descriptive he is. So in this point in the book, he's talking about Ice Cube is just about to drop America's Most Wanted, and what the climate of hip hop was and the world was at the time. So he says basically Firestone, Goodyear, and General Motors closed their manufacturing plants in South Central. In all, 131 plants shuttered during the 1980s, eliminating unionized manufacturing jobs in the rubber, steel, and auto industries, and leaving 124,000 people unemployed in the center city. So obviously that kind of gives you an idea of there was a lot of, unemployment. There's a lot of people desperate. There's a lot of people, that don't have money at the time. So what happens, like, we all know the history of what happens in LA at that time as well. So he does a really good job of painting the picture and backing it up with a lot of like facts, obviously. So ties in everything, ties in socio-economic issues, political stuff, and how that all played into hip hop and how that translated again into what was being released, the groups that were being formed, groups that were breaking up, all of these kinds of things. So Can't Stop, Won't Stop. Definitely a must-have in every single library for every single person who's interested in the history of hip-hop.
Dope. The next joint that I got up is it's like a trilogy piece. We're gonna start off with Rakim Told Me by Brian Coleman. Brian Coleman was there you go, Porsche.
This is my next one, so I'll just pass
So we could just come right along with this one. Brian Coleman used to do these articles in the back of XXL that I used to love. And it would kind of be like talking to special ed, talking about the making of Youngest in Charge and just interviews with Ed and Howie too. And it was just quick little blurb about it. So these books were written by him. So it started off with Rakim Told Me was the first book. And then it morphed into Check the Technique, which actually has some stories from Rakim Told Me, but Rakim Told Me still has more stories that didn't make it to this Check the Technique. And then you got Check the Technique Volume 2. You know what I mean? And I always tell people, nice, good books, good reads. You're gonna learn so much out of these books. It's amazing. I think I forgot which show we was on. We were talking about G-Rap, and I pulled it out yeah, did y'all know G-Rap had brain surgery? And it's he talks about all that in here. So it's the making of some of the dopest hip hop albums from the 80s and the early 90s. So going back as far as Criminal Minded, Ultramagnetic, Eric and Parrish's first album, Strictly Business, the Jungle Brothers.
And Mantronics.
Yeah, Mantronics. I mean,
1985.
Almost any album you can think of that was made probably between 85 and maybe 91, maybe 92, is somehow, some way discussed in these three books. Very, very dope album. Very dope books. And the thing that I love about with Check the Technique, this one, because y'all know I will always champion the first Ultramagnetic album, Critical Beatdown. In this book, Check the Technique, the first one, the two biggest chapters is BDP's Criminal Minded, and we know what a monster and a masterpiece that was. The next biggest chapter is Ultramagnetic's Critical Beatdown. So I always tell folk who may have never heard about it, it's that dope that it's was talked about that long in this joint. So, Porsche, what you got on Rakim Told Me and Check the Techniques and everything?
Yeah, I was gonna say Rakim Told Me is like the extension of the liner notes that we used to read, and it's just like the most detailed and accounts. And the best part about the way Brian Coleman writes is that he takes excerpts from the actual artists and MCs themselves. So you're not getting like his interpretation of it. No, you're getting direct quotes. He's directly speaking to them and putting it in these books and compiling it together. It's this book, I do have to say, if you can get a hold of this, purchase it. And the reason for that is this is probably one of the most rare and most difficult books to find. This is the most expensive book I've ever purchased in my life.
The funny thing is, of course, I remember the day you got that. Yes. And how excited you were, how hyped you were.
Because this is going for $356 on eBay, and I am not joking. And I got it for less than that. Obviously, I got it for just under $100, and that's the cheapest possible that's available right now, unless there's people that are printing it. But it's very difficult to find. So if you can get a hold of it, get a hold of it, and keep it. don't give it away. Briz is like the nicest person in the world. Briz, if you find this book, don't give it away, man. It's not worth it. Like, don't. Tell them to go find it.
Giving it away,
And you got to realize, for people out there, again, we're bookworms. It's like I'm a digger. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I love first editions. You know what I mean? I love the first edition. I'm not a fan of second editions. My old head came through my records maybe back in '93, and he saw some reissues. He was like, yo, we don't do reissues, bro. If you can't find the original, keep fucking looking for that shit. So when you go through these records, it's all originals. If I ever come across any reissues, I'll give them away. I don't even sell them. I had a reissue of the Honeysuckle Breeze, the Troy joint. I just gave it away. Like, I still could have got good money for that, but it's just like, it's a reissue. So just all that to say, like Poor said, if you can get your hands on it, it's definitely
like,
to me, it's a great investment.
Of all the books we're talking about, this one is the one to like cop and keep, because it is that difficult to find. And mine actually is a used copy that I got just under $100 Canadian. So it's in very good condition, like no issues or damage at all, but it's still used. So like, think about that. Get it, please. Keep this book in print.
No doubt. Vern, what you got up next, good brother?
All right, I'm going with Maurice White.
Okay.
My Life with Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh.
Yeah, and then Philip Bailey's joint.
Yeah.
Braving the Elements of Earth, Wind, and Fire. So I dove into Maurice White, man. This is another one of those things, man. I read it, and it's like my life flashed before me, man. Just learning the history of him coming from Tennessee. He was a drummer, with Ramsey Lewis, and how.
Vern, can you put the mic up to you?
Oh, my bad. My bad. Okay, yeah. It talks about the history of him coming from Tennessee, and how he was a drummer, and he, went to Chicago because his stepbrother, Verdine, and his family lived there. But Maurice White, man, was a dope drummer and just a visionary. And if you saw the Wu-Tang and you know how a lot of those guys felt about RZA, that's kind of how Earth, Wind, and Fire felt about Maurice. Because he was a visionary, those dudes just wanted to play. But Maurice had the big picture, and without him having that big picture, they wouldn't be where they were. Now, because of him doing that, he got the loot, and so there was some hard feelings about it, man. But it is a very incredible, dope book telling the story of Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, we all grew up on Earth, Wind, and Fire. And Philip's book is more free-flowing and more from a creative, from an artist standpoint, and a lot of different stories, man. So I would definitely recommend anybody that's a soul head, please get these books.
What's the name of those two again?
All right, Maurice White's is My Life with Earth, Wind, and Fire, and Philip's is Shining Star, Braving the Elements of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
And it's bug that you named those two back to back, because did you find any controversy in between them? Like, because I just feel like if RZA came out with a book and Ghostface came out with a book, somewhere in there's some shots being taken at each other.
Well, okay, so again, Maurice addresses how the folks felt about him in his book. So he didn't hide from it. But again, he's like, listen, I had the vision. I got y'all where y'all are. So it is what it is. When y'all was out partying or whatever, I was in here grinding, making beats for RZA, you know what I'm saying? So, hey, you just have to just deal with it. But and I also grateful, man. The last concert I went to before we went on punishment, I took my mom to see Earth, Wind, and Fire, man. Brother, listen, man. Verdine, them boys still rock hard, dog. I'm talking about in the 60s and 70s. Philip's son is a singer now. He's one of the lead singers. Man, it was incredible, dog. I'm talking about. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. So yeah, if you get the chance, go see those legacy artists, man, while they still here, because they ain't gonna be here too much longer, man.
That's dope. That's dope. Briz, what you got for your next one, good brother? You know what, Briz? Pause for a second, Briz, because let's talk about your joint real quick. I got a million books around here. Talk about the book. I got all
right. So my book, Air Hustling, the Studio Blueprint. It's an introduction to recording arts. Basically, just coming out of school and doing 20 years in the business, you learn something. And one of the most rewarding things I learned was to just pass on the information that I got. If it wasn't for veteran engineers being selfless and showing me the ropes when I got out of school, I don't know how far I would have gotten. I mean, mind, body, and soul, right? So I wanted to be able to do that for somebody who was like, say, the 20-year-old me, like somebody who was just interested in understanding what the studio is about, or understanding recording arts, or understanding sound engineering. So I put together an introductory book for that, and it basically gives you a good running start into the craft itself, where you learn about the basics of sound, how your ears work, the gear that we use, the connections that we made when we just did everything analog, all the way to how that translated into how the designers and sound designers then made that into the plugins and computer programs that most people are accustomed to today. And then I even touch in on like the mechanics of things, like how to like, solder a cable, or how to like make something, so that we're not just totally disconnected from it. Because the more information that you get like that, then the easier it is for you to just be more creative with the tools that you're given. And it just helps you refine your ear. So definitely you can check it out. It's on my website, earhustlermedia.com. You can also find it on Amazon and now on Apple Books as a digital copy. So I want to thank everybody here for, supporting. Everybody should be getting there soon. Porsche, I know yours is in the mail. It's coming. So definitely check it out if that's something that you're interested in, or give it to somebody.
Here's the thing, Briz. You're forgetting your selling point. This was Cool and Dre's in-house engineer for 10 plus years.
Yes.
So that's a huge piece. You can't say all that. You can't be Eddie Sancho and be like, oh yeah, forget. I kind of did work with DJ Premier for 20 years. Like, nah, like you like, and on the back of the book it says Briz was there just as Miami was becoming a recording hub of the music industry, and that's Cool by Cool and Dre. So definitely cop this, and this is like what I need, because I always tell producers out there that we're now having to become our own engineers, and that's not the way the game usually worked. Every producer had an engineer. Primo had Eddie Sancho, Timbaland had Jimmy D, Just Blaze had Young Guru. We're now as producers having to become our own engineers. When I got like the whole everything you need to know about Pro Tool book, it's like that crate 400, 500, 600 pages. This is exactly, it'll get you to where you need to be. It'll definitely be that, get you what you need to know. So again, if we spend all this money, if we spend $5,000 on all the studio equipment, cop this book, because what's the point of getting all that equipment and not knowing the right way to use it? So I always tell folk that people want to get cheap when it's time to learn. People don't mind taking out loans to get all the equipment and do all that, but then when it's time to buy a $30, $40 book, it's like, oh, come on, man, do I really need that? Like, yeah, nigga, you kind of do need it. So definitely, Chris, just wanted to shout you out for that. But what's your next book, bro?
Thank you, I appreciate that. So my next book this is what I didn't give away because it was given to me, and I still hold it near and dear to my heart. It's Miles. It's the autobiography of Miles Davis. And it was given to me by my late great father-in-law, who was very instrumental in my life, especially in the man that I am today. Even though I've been married for 20 years, and I don't feel like I understood what it was to be a man until I met the man that raised my wife. So for him to gift me this just a few years before he passed, it meant a lot to me. And in this book, I did find that while I wasn't the biggest jazz aficionado, I did understand Miles Davis and Miles Davis's music, and the same disruptive energy that you got from a Miles Davis performance is the same energy that he put into this book. He talks about everything unfiltered, all the way from his birth in Illinois, close to where the Mississippi River is. Yeah. Growing up in like during times of racism. I mean, throughout his career, meeting people like Quincy Jones. He talks about everything and everybody. He talks about his own, I guess you could say, downslide through the drugs and everything like that. And it's written with that Miles Davis jazz feel. And if you are a good reader, if you can read and you like to read stuff like that, this is definitely one that if you wanted to really understand jazz and understand that creative process, this is a great book to get because he writes it how he played. And I would suggest this book for anybody. It's amazing. It's almost like it really is like a jazz tell-all. You know what I mean? He goes through his whole life in that book after coming off of not talking to anybody for like 5 years. Then out of nowhere, he drops this book. So definitely check that one out. It's definitely influential for me. And I became like a huge, like every time I listen to jazz now, I think of that book. So check it out.
That's dope. That's dope.
Yep.
Let me ask a quick question, everybody. JR, I got you next coming up.
Okay.
What is it, just real quick, what is it that pulled you into reading? Because what happens is a lot of people, you know, I always used to joke about this, but it's not a joke. I'm like, you go to Yo MTV Raps and you see, you know, Yo MTV Cribs or whatever. I ain't never seen a library. Not once. I done seen strip poles. I done seen swimming pools. I done seen fucking splash parks. I done seen garages with 50. I've yet to see one black person with a library. You know, and when I try to stress to people about reading, you know, it kind of goes in. So I'm just always trying to think from the standpoint of somebody who may be watching this show, like, oh, I always wanted to read, but I never really got the bug for it. Like, Porsche, what got you into reading? Just something real quick.
I think that there's no limit to what pages. A book can be as long or as short as an author wants it to be. And for me, that allows a lot of creative power to the author. So what got me into reading hip hop books specifically is my love for the culture, my love for the craft, and my interest in learning about it constantly. So it just didn't give any limits. It's not limited by running time of a movie. It's not limited by production on a documentary. It's not expensive, or as expensive, I should say, to run than like a documentary would be. And you can pick it up and read it. It's a good time passing hobby. And again, it's just why are books always better than movies? It's because they can be as descriptive as possible in books. There's no cutting corners because you've got to match some sort of like real time or whatever. So that's what drew me into books, and that's what keeps me into books.
Right. I know for me, I never liked reading growing up because it was like I got to read in school all the time. Fuck, I'm going to come home and read for some more. And it wasn't until I moved to Atlanta and I met my mentor, Tony, who worked over at WCLK. And, you know, he's being rough on me and like on some old John Thompson, you know, God rest the dead type love, some tough black man on black man love. And he's like, nigga, read this book. I was like, I'll read. Like, nigga, read the damn book. And then just after I read that book, it was just like I just fell in love with reading. It was like I want more. Like, and I think it's because I write scripts too that I love visualizing a book. You know what I mean? Like I love reading it and figuring out what the characters look like. Even if I'm reading an autobiography and I know what you look like, I'm visualizing you in this scene and what's going on. So I know for me that's kind of what caught my ear. Briz, what about you? What pulled you into, you know? Because here's the thing, I'm blessed that a lot of people want to be on this show. Like I'm literally now having to come up with a calendar of guests to sit in. But when I was like, hey, anybody up for any books? Niggas was like, next week. Like what y'all got going on next week? And that's no disrespect to anybody. I'm not saying that in a bad way, you know, but you know, it's just like, I want to know what draws people, you know, into reading. So what about you, Briz?
I think for me, childhood, I come from a West Indian family. My whole family's from Trinidad. And, my mom in Trinidad was an English teacher, and when she moved to the States and had me, she was a nurse. But even throughout, as far back as I could remember as a child, my mom had a library. I mean, my mom had the Encyclopedia Britannica, and for some reason, like this was before I think the Atari 2500. When I first started reading on my own, the Atari 2500 might have come out 2 years after that. So there wasn't a whole lot besides Saturday morning cartoons, listening to the radio and playing outside and playing with G.I. Joes or something like that you could actually get into, right? So the library that my mom had was actually in my room. So I had this big wall of books, and I would just grab a book and just go through it. I mean, I was reading my mom's medical books and everything like that. And then it wasn't until I got into somewhere after college, and I think this probably happened to everybody, after college, the last thing you want to do is pick up a book, right? So for me, it was like, oh, I'm done learning, I'm on the go. So I did put down reading for a long time, and it wasn't until I think about 3 years ago that I kind of felt like there's something missing. I'm slipping somewhere. Like even when I'm speaking to people, like it's like I'm losing a part of what I was able to do, 10 years prior. So then I started reading again, and I wanted to learn about politics and everything because of what was going on in the world, and just really fell back in love with it. And then it was like a year after that I said to myself, you know what, I want to write a book. So it kind of just all played in, and now it's like a muscle. Now it's like I made a commitment. I was going to read 12 books last year. I did that this year. I'm going to try to, I'm already on my 4th one, and I'm just going to keep going, and I'm just going to keep going as much as I could. So.
Well, God bless you, because I think I read 2 books in the past 2 years. So I've fallen off heavy. Vern, what about you, man?
Margaret Hines, hats off to you, man. 7th grade English teacher. I was in a gifted and talented track class. They put us all in one class, and she was no nonsense, man. She ain't play no games, man. And she sparked my love of reading. We had to read I Know Why the Cage Birds Sing, and a bunch of books like that, man. And so I had her in 7th and 8th grade, and then I moved to Atlanta in the 9th grade. So that first year, I ain't know nobody. I'm nervous. I ain't got no clothes, so I just immersed myself in books, and that's how I got my love for Vietnam War stuff. So that's what sparked my love. And then as writing rhymes and whatever like that, just that's why it baffles me, and it shows that a lot of these guys don't read because you don't have a mastery of words. How can your profession be something that you need words and you don't know words? So that's why and then like Port said, when you read, man, you can just go anywhere. Your mind can go anywhere, and it's just a relaxation. It's a freedom. You ain't got to talk to nobody. You can just hide yourself in another world, man. So that's why I love reading.
All right. What about you, JR? Oh, what's up, Bruce?
I just thought of one thing I forgot to mention. I mentioned the Encyclopedia Britannica, and I'm thinking back, like I'm thinking to the audience, and I'm like, half of the people probably don't know what that is.
Right.
I had to explain it to my 10-year-old the other day. It's basically Google before Google was Google. Anything you needed to know about the world was in this catalog of books A through Z called the Encyclopedia Britannica. I think somebody weighed it, and I think it ended up being something crazy like 200 pounds. Like it's the world knowledge before Google. Sorry.
And keep in mind, if you had an encyclopedia, like you was the shit. Like your parents invested in your education because most folks didn't have encyclopedias. They'd have to go to the library. So
and they sold them in packages, like A and B is one package, and then like C is another package, and you would order it.
You're dating yourself. You're dating yourself. I know you don't like to do age, but I'm just saying, I'm giving you a hint and a half. Okay, so
hey, and the problem with it, my grandmother had them, and they each year, they were new. Right. So I got stuff from 15 years ago. So yeah, he took a sack on that one.
JR, what about you? What got you?
My mom loves reading. Like she reads a book every week. And I've known that for 34 years of my life. My mom has read a book every week. So knowing that, and I just was like, yo, like she's my biggest inspiration. So I just want to be like her. So I know she was like, yo, feed your knowledge, feed your brain. So read, you know what I'm saying? And like for Christmas come around, she'd be like, yo, I want these books. So I know a lot of her Christmas gifts, she wants books. So from that point, and when I was 4 years, I just look at her and she'd be reading. I'm like, I want to do that. And when she saw that I connected with music, she's like, I got it. I know what I'm going to start him off with. And from that moment, I just started reading autobiographies, going there. And then when I got to when I got to elementary school, they had us read To Kill a Mockingbird. And once I read that, then that transferred me to something else. But she started me with reading, autobiography. So,
and I think what portion you were both saying is so important for people out there who want to learn about hip hop. You have to take it another step. You know, if you're really serious, I'm challenging people more this year. You're really serious about this culture, stop going to Wikipedia, stop going to Google, read a book, then come to one of us OGs, and instead of trying to debate us on it, be like, yo, okay, boom, I just read this book about such and such. What was it like? Like, you tell me firsthand, and then that's where you can keep building it. But, you know, I understand, because like we just said, encyclopedias, now you can just go to your phone, look something up, and you think you're an expert on it. Ugh. Again, you got to read, you know, you got to invest in that, you know, so that's one of my many challenges from the day. Eddie, what about you? What got you into reading, brother?
Yeah, honestly, you know, I'm really trying to get back into reading. I was a cotton kid. You know, I used to love reading. Growing up, I loved reading, and I think school kind of soured me on reading a little bit, just because like I used to like to read for enjoyment, kind of pick out what I wanted to read, kind of get lost. And once you start adding the element of, all right, I want you to write a book report, and you got all this other stuff. Now you're not reading for yourself. Now you're reading and scanning the book and picking out, all right, I want to this part and this part. You're kind of picking it apart without really getting lost in it in that way. And I think just kind of continuing that process kind of soured me. And so I found some books here and there, and I at one point I remember when I got my first Kindle, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna start reading more, you know. And I read a couple things, but really I don't like reading on a screen like that. Be it a Kindle or my phone or laptop. It's just, it messes with my eyes. It's just, you know, the swiping format. There's something about having a book in your hand. You know, definitely, you know, I've read a couple hip hop books, not nearly the amount that you guys have, but it's definitely something I want to do. You know, my sister, when she was asking me what I wanted for Christmas, I told her, I'm like, you know what, I'm really trying to read more, so take that information as you will. So, you know, she sent me some books, and you know, I'm here. You know, honestly, I'm here. I'm jotting down all the notes, everything you guys are saying. I know a few books that have been mentioned on the podcast many times, but you know, yeah. I'm trying to get into it for sure.
No doubt. JR, what's your third book? No, your second. We on seconds.
All right. Well, keeping the Motown, I want to talk about The Rise and Fall of Motown, Where Did Our Love Go by Nelson George, who is my biggest inspiration. Like, after my mom is Nelson George. Like, I'm like the biggest fan of him. This book, I love this book so much because I feel like Nelson goes into more of the artists that we don't talk about from Motown. Like, we don't talk about the Funk Brothers a lot. We don't talk about what's his name, Ivy Joe Hunter a lot. We don't talk about Norman Whitfield. We don't talk about these artists. So a lot of it, he talks about, like, yeah, it's great, you know, we can talk about the groups and all this, but he goes into the musicians. You know what I mean? He really talks about when, you know, what's his name, when Marvin was making What's Going On, and James Jamerson was drunk and he had to go get him, and James Jamerson played the bass of What's Going On his back because he was drunk. He played it on his back, like. And Nelson really goes in so you can know these musicians and know them. I think it's great. I learned a lot about Georgia Holland, which is my favorite producers of all time. I learned about them in this. So this book is dope. If you really want to know about Motown, the rise and the fall of it, well, not really fall, but if you want to know it, I would say read this book by Nelson George.
Dope. Eddie, what you got up next, good brother?
The next book I got is called Creative Quest, written by Questlove. So this book, how I wind up getting this book, you know, my wife, you know, bless her, man. One year, I can't remember what it was, whether it was my birthday, I think it was. She gifted me tickets to see Questlove, and I was like, "What is it?" And she was completely hush about it. You know, I didn't know if it was a concert. I don't know what kind of event it was. but it was an event. He was speaking on his book, basically, spending some time kind of talking live. And, part of it is you get a signed copy of the book. So, obviously when I got it, a lot of people there had already read the book, and were kind of getting the insight, and a lot of people were asking questions because they read it. But I got the book as part of the package, so by the time I want to see it, but hearing him talk got me really interested to kind of figure out all the details. But it's really interesting. It's him kind of branching out, him being a creative, obviously, and kind of talking about how everyone gets. I don't know if writer's block. Obviously, writer's block is for writers, but kind of a creator's block. It's sort of a way, and how do you move past that, or how do people get creative energies? And he's talked to folks in the book, like I think George Clinton, D'Angelo, a bunch of other people, and you get insight. The book is not just about Questlove, although it is. But it's also about these other artists, and not just in music, in other disciplines as well. It's about them too and their creative processes as well. So it's a really interesting read. I really enjoyed it.
Hey, when you buy that one, buy this one too. More Meta Blues by Questlove. It's a pretty dope read as well.
Yeah, no doubt. The next book that I got up, since JR brought up Nelson George, let's keep the Nelson George party going, The Death of Rhythm and Blues.
You know that was coming.
Yeah, so, you see that we got tic-tac-toe up here if we had another row, but Death of Rhythm and Blues, just an incredible album of just through the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, just seeing how music, I'm always talking about it on the show, just how hip hop, like we talking on the timeline today about LL. And I'm telling people to go from 1984 to 1994. That's unheard of. Now somebody thinking, that's just 10 years. Most artists ain't around for 10 years, period. But to be able to adapt to the sound, people don't understand hip hop was changing every 2 years. Mm-hmm. So the hip hop that was out in 82 didn't sound like 84, that didn't sound like 86, that didn't sound like 88. So to be around for 10 years through that span, you really have to look at how hip hop moved. And to me, this book kind of talks about how R&B moved through those different shifts. And anybody who's seen the 5 Heartbeats, you can kind of see how you're coming out with I Got Nothing But Love, but then that sounded totally different by the time Flash joined the group and the 80s were coming in, disco came in. And so it's just, this right here is just, if you really want to understand and get a good look at soul music, and just the different waves of it, I think this right here is definitely a dope joint. What's up, Ed?
Yo, so I got a question for you and the rest of the panel, because obviously y'all have read a lot more books than me. One of the things that has always been a problem with me is, because I'll go to the library and kind of check out books, before I decide, if I want to buy it, I'll go out and check. But, there's so many books, and especially with music, there's so much out there. And, I've picked up books and started reading, and it's like completely trash. And, so how do you guys find these books, and how do you vet like the authors, and how do you determine like who knows what the hell they're talking about and who doesn't?
It's funny you say that, because right before you jumped on, I was challenging people to get to know the author, because now more than ever, everybody can write a book. You know what I mean? So I know with me, I forgot how I got this. Is for me, real quick story. I'm living in Atlanta. XXL drops. It's when XXL really first started. It's maybe been the 3rd issue, and it was a D'Angelo joint called Voodoo Child, written by Tanya Pendleton. I always shout her out on the timeline, because this article changed my life, because she was talking about how D'Angelo would study the greats, and how he would study James and Marvin and all of them. And I realized one of my homegirls used to come to my crib in college and be like, "Yo, you got all these records and you don't know shit about none of these artists. You're just grabbing a record, looking for a sample, and then throwing it to the side." And it was the first time somebody like really checked me on that. And then on top of that, there's a female who's checking me like, yo, like, cause her musical knowledge was crazy. So it kind of led me down a rabbit hole to I gotta find more Marvin. Cause he you know, she was right. I knew Marvin, I knew the singles. I didn't know Marvin. I didn't know Here My Day. I didn't know that stuff. So I started diving, and somewhere along the way, Nelson George's name came up. And you know, it just was like, you know, he was being connected to so many books. So the book JR just shouted out, Where Our Love Go? I got that downstairs. Like I have Hip Hop America, which is Nelson George. So it's kind of like similar. I always tell people, if people remember, somebody was getting convicted less than 3 or 3.5 for The Shining. And it just pissed off everybody. I'm sure. I know everybody at Morgan was pissed off. And that's what made me start paying attention to the writers. Because before I just thought the source, you know, rated the stuff. Then I realized, oh, certain writers started, you know, rating the stuff. So now I know not to go to that writer because he don't know what the fuck he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? So this is like, let me start following these writers and stuff like that. So I mean, I think at the end of the day, even when a book pops up, because I'll give you a great example. Of course, what's the joint we did, Born to Use Mics by
Michael Eric Dyson.
Michael Eric Dyson. To me, that book looks amazing. Born to Use Mics, all about Illmatic. I wasn't paying attention to who wrote it. I just brought it, and when I got in the mail, I was like, Eric Michael Dyson. I was like, and we're back. So you know what I mean. So it's those things that I've always just challenged people. Just, you know, one, ask, but then two, like, research the art. Like somebody sent me a book the other day, and it was the book about, I guess a brother put out about like how Tribe like affected his life.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And those books just aren't for me. Like, you know what I mean? Not saying they're not dope, but they're not for me because if I don't know you, I really don't care how low end impacted.
That Tribe book is the one by Hanif Hanif, right?
It could be Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. I'm not sure.
Abdul Rauf, yeah. And
it could be Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. I don't know.
The love letter to Tribe, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. And again, this is no disrespect against the good brother. It could be an excellent book. It's just not for me because I don't know you. Like if JR writes a book like his love affair with Motown, I'll read that because I know JR, but I don't know this boy. I don't know, does he really know hip hop to even write a book? I mean, you're just writing about how a album affected you. But if I don't know you, then I'm not gonna buy that because I don't know if you even a hip hop head. You could just be some casual listener who found Low End Theory one day, and so you know, I just think it's that too. So, Vern, what would you say about how do you find artists and authors in life?
You can pick up that book though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw Death Rhythm. I didn't mean to throw this. It was just an example.
I listen to people that I respect. You know, if I see, it's kind of like how you get put on the music. Everybody was talking about Hiatus Kaiyote, Layla, and Quest. I was like, man, let me see what these people are about. So that's one way. And then there's an outlet mall near our house. When my wife and my daughter go ham, there's a bookstore outlet there. And bruh, I walked away with like 6 books for $30. And so I go to the music section and just be grabbing stuff. Like Marvin, I got a bunch of books right here that I ain't, Aretha Franklin, Tommy Mottola, Phil Collins, Mary Wilson, a whole bunch of books that I ain't even read yet. But I mean, bruh, 6 books for $30, I'm just popping.
Right.
So it's a little bit of, you know, referred by people that I respect, and then I just grab it. And you can go online too and get used books for stupid amounts of money.
Yeah.
And so I cop them that way too. And then, I mean, hell, the thing good. I spent $4 on it, so what?
Yeah.
Yo, Eddie, what I do now, like in the beginning for me, I was just doing it by like word of mouth. You know what I mean? Everything was just word of mouth referrals. What I did recently was, and you mentioned, you know, you got a library card. There's this app called Libby, Libby, and what it does is, if you have a library card, you can put in your library card number, and it basically gives you access to you could check books out and digital books, right, just, you know, on the strength of your library, basically. And so even now, like if there's a book that I might be interested in and whatever it is, I'll check it out and I'll read a couple chapters of it just to get a feel for it. And if I like it, then I'll go cop it. If I don't like it, then at least I didn't waste, time and money. Like, because it's not, just I don't think anybody these days really have the luxury to like go and peruse Barnes and Nobles the way we would like to. You know what I mean? Oh, and then I forgot. I used to work at a bookstore. Like one of my first jobs out of before I actually got into the engineering thing was at Borders Books. So I used to just be in there just reading books all the time. I think the book that came out at the time was like Superhead. Superhead's book came out, and I was just sitting in the aisle just reading that joint like, yo, what's going on? So
the book that set it all off for women everywhere, though, write books about their sexual endeavors.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's funny you said that, Vern. When I lived in ATL, I was so broke that I would go to Barnes and Noble, and I literally would start reading the book and then write down on a piece of paper like what page I left off on, and I would get to work an hour early so that I could read, because like literally I used to work at this camp, and like right down the street from the camp was a Barnes and Noble. So I could, if I had to be to work at 3, I could leave Barnes and Nobles at 2:50 and still get there. So I would go to Barnes and Nobles like 1, then read. So I mean, like when you get that Jones, it's like even when you don't have money, it's like, okay, I'll just sit here in Barnes and Nobles and just read a whole book. You know what I mean? Like it may take me a month, but so yeah, when that Jones hits you, it's like what Savion saying, Love Jones. When that Jones comes down, it can be a mother. So when that book Jones come down. I forgot who I left off on. Who went last? Was it you, JR? Did you go?
Yeah, I went.
All right. So Eddie, I went. Then it's Britt. My bad.
No. Porsche didn't go because we missed.
Oh right, Porsche, you didn't go because you dipped for a second.
Oh, my third book was the Rakim Told Me. Should I can skip my third one.
No. We talk about it.
I mean, I already talked about it. So I'll go the fourth one. So you guys go because that's my
Rakim Told Me. I'm bugging. I'm thinking you're talking about the Rakim's book that came out. My bad.
No, that's my next one. So please don't take that one.
I got you.
Kill went, and then now it's Vern. I think it's on Vern. Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So,
thank you, Grizz. I'm bugging over here.
So we're gonna continue our Nelson George Love Fest. Kill mentioned hip hop in America. I'm talking about the hippest trip in America.
Soul Train joint.
Yeah, man. It's everything. It talks about how it started in Chicago, how it went out to LA. I like how he profiles the dances like the Nita Joe and some of the other things, background scenes. I'm a backstory cat. I want to know that kind of stuff. So Nelson George is an excellent writer, and we all know that, man. So he did a great job, man. Shout out to that the show on BET. They did a great job, man. I'm talking about casting, writing, directing is dope, and I hope it comes back. So yeah, Nelson George, Soul Train, the hippest trip in America.
That the BET joint was good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's dope.
I didn't hear anybody. Anytime BET does anything original, I don't trust it. And because I didn't hear anybody like really talking about it like that, I kind of just, But if y'all co-sign it, I will definitely dive into that. Would they do 2 seasons?
2 seasons.
Or they just did 1?
Yeah. 2.
I think that gives it more credit now when people aren't talking about certain shows. Because everybody's too busy talking about trash.
Right.
That's a good point too.
Talk about it. You're right.
That's a good point too. All right, Briz, what you got?
So I'm a fast forward a little bit because I just recently read this one. It was Jay-Z's Decoded. And I didn't know what I was looking for. Like I just saw it and I was like, you know what? Let me just take a look at it. And I found it really, really interesting because he wrote it. It was written very well. Like number one, off top, the book was written very well. I think it was written up to a Jay-Z standard, and the way it was designed was good because it kind of lives up to the title. I didn't know what to expect really, and it really was him decoding some of his more known verses, but putting like a backstory into it, or putting more of like, him being like traveling up and down I-95, being in these traps, and then meanwhile, like, people are trying to get him into the studio and stuff like that, and then and then he'll go into the lyrics of the song, like so he'll write out the lyrics to the song to kind of match the story he was telling. So it's almost like a behind the music type of feel to it. And I say it was written very well because it was edited and probably I don't know how much writing or work this person did in it, but it was edited by Dream Hampton. And I was always a fan of like her writing for different publications and stuff like that. And so I did enjoy that book, and it wasn't like a super like long read. So it wasn't like I was just over inundated with Jay-Z, but it was good to see like a written out version of like a behind the music. So I enjoyed it. It was good for me.
You know what's really dope about that book, Briz, is that it's literally all of the songs that are, like you said, they're the known ones, but they're also the most loved ones. So when you're reading it, it's sort of like you're playing the song in your head. You could hear Jay rapping it, and then you're like reading Jay's account of it, what he meant by that. So it's such a full it's literally a 360 picture of the tracks that he decided to decode, so to speak. And you're right, it's beautifully written in a way that really connects you to his entire thought process. So it is a really, really good book. Yeah. Nice.
So, JR, what you got, good brother?
All right, so thanks for somebody for snooping. Caught and gave me this book, The Invisible Man, the story of Rob Temperton.
I gotta read that.
I've been wanting this book. It was in my I think we was talking about it. I think we were, I don't know. And Vern saw it.
Yeah,
and he sent it to me on the low. I didn't even know. I went to my mailbox and he was like, yo, I got you something. And he got me the book. But this book is dope, for real. Like, I read it in 7 hours straight. Like, I didn't even stop. Like, this book is dope because you learn about Rob Temperton and who he was. He was so, like, he's not that outgoing dude. Like, he's just like, yo, I want to be in the studio. I want to go home. I'm not this music industry dude. Like, I'm not that. You know what I mean? So if you want to know, like, what Thriller was really before it was Thriller, like, you learn a lot in this book about this dude. I think it was a great book.
Can you touch on a little bit about who Rod Temperton is?
Man. He started with thank you. He started with Heat Wave, and Quincy Jones really saw that he was brilliant, and he grabbed him up and made him part of his team. And he wrote a lot for Michael. He did a lot for George Benson. He did a lot for Patty Austin. He did a lot for so many people. And like he did
Mystery.
Like he did. He produced and wrote for so many people. Like, I didn't even know he did Mystery for Anita Baker. I did not know that until I read this book. And I'm a liner notes reader, and I didn't even know that. And that got me. But Invisible Man, I love this book. It's in top 5 for me, for real.
Hey, JR, and when you found out, didn't it make sense? Oh, that's so
it
right.
really made sense because the way he vocal arrange stuff and the way he writes stuff, it makes perfect sense. It was like, okay, you got the aha moment. And then when you got people in the book talking about him and saying how dope he was, and he was just a cigarette smoker and just want to make music, and that's it.
A country boy from England.
From England, yes. Yeah, he's dope.
So funny because I don't think I've ever even read the liner notes from this. Like, I don't think I ever sat back and really even looked at who produced what on that. So that's crazy right there. That's crazy. All right, bet. Eddie, what you got up next?
I don't like I said, I haven't read too much as far as like hip hop books, but this one I got as a gift is I think it's called the Rap Yearbook by Shea Serrano. I think Ice-T is involved with that. It's a cool book. I mean, you know, you're not getting super in depth like in that way. It's not something that you're reading and it's telling a story, but it is cool, kind of like as a timestamp. Like, I think for younger hip hop fans, you're getting kind of like I said, a timestamp of certain years. they're picking one defining song from every year in hip hop, starting from 1979. I want to say it might go up to like 2018 or something. Like, but it is interesting. It also touches on some of the other songs. You know, and it's really about not just what the best is as musically, but also like the impact. You know, you're never gonna agree with everything, right?
Right.
But if you look at overall, who were the biggest artists, you know, in a certain way, you can't argue with some of those picks. You know, even if you don't like some of those artists, like a certain Aubrey, you know, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, everybody saw Portia.
Yeah. Everybody, yo, I love the fact that if you say anything, all eyes just go shoot straight to Portia. Toronto, Aubrey, the Six, just everybody, especially if somebody's a guest on the show and they don't know. It just, I think everybody's eyes just go straight to Portia. And it's like, I'm gonna just have to start putting the camera on her when somebody says Aubrey, so we could just all enjoy.
But you know, yeah. But the book is also fun. You know, it got different like different graphs, different kind of little comics and little things like that kind of set it apart. So you know, it's light reading, but you know, something you could pick up and kind of go back to. So,
all right, no doubt. Portia, what you got for your fourth one?
Sweat the Technique. This book is a book that, like, I never knew I really wanted it. This was a pre-order for me, and again, off the strength of the Rakim Told Me book, I was like, okay, if Rakim's name is in the title, I have to cop it because it's going to get out of print like quick. So,
you know what's funny, Portia? That is the first book that I pre-ordered.
Yeah,
I don't pre-order stuff because
right.
I never believe it's gonna come out. I'm gonna forget I spent the money on it, and I always felt like I was just gonna get jerked. That's actually the first book I ever pre-ordered.
Yeah. So this one, what I love about it is literally like Rakim. I mean, we know Rakim's, like, you know, how he is in hip hop and how revered he is in hip hop. And this book is written by him. So you're hearing it literally from the horse's mouth, and it's all about how he comes, you know, gets the ideas to write the rhymes, his process, his mindset, what he does to sort of get ready. And there's little details that I really like that he sort of did. Like, for example, just the I don't know if you guys can see it, but this side here looks like it's written in a notebook, like a coil-bound notebook. So when you're reading this, it's sort of like you're reading Rakim's rhyme book, and he gives you that feeling all the way through. And he talks a lot about his family, a lot about how he was influenced to be the way that he was, how, you know, when he first got into rapping, people were telling him, no, you gotta rap with energy, like, you know, all these other rappers, and this is just the sound right now. And he was like, I'm not doing it. So it really, you know, gives a lot of insight into just the God MC, and I think it's worth the purchase. Definitely worth the read, and it's like Rakim is a master storyteller in rhymes, and it permeates into the book. Like, this is just his bag. So definitely cop it, read it, and this will be one that I would recommend rereading every now and then as well, because it's just that dope. So.
Yeah, I love that book too. If I'm not mistaken, we did a Book of Rhymes episode about that. Speaking of Book of Rhymes, Portia and I, our book club book is back in effect. We're going to be doing it on Clubhouse Monday, March 29th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. If y'all want in, just cop this book, Rough House by Chris Schwartz. We'll be chopping it up about that then. Clubhouse to me is the best place to do it. So we can have it. Is it good?
It's good.
I know Portia read this, so I picked this off of Portia's Love. I knew a lot of people already had it. I still haven't read this. I'm gonna have to bang this out.
Yeah, I banged it out. It was good.
That book is just so insightful. It's so incredibly insightful.
It really takes you through the stages of hip hop from the beginning. Like,
It really does.
So
It really
everybody
does.
out there who's, if you need because sometimes in life you just need a starting point. You know, like kind of Ed said, you get to a library, it's a billion books around, you don't know this is a great starting point. Cop it with us, chop it up with us, dive into it with us. March 29th on Clubhouse, 9:30 Eastern time, we'll be talking about this. And I think another thing about that Rakim book, the Don't Sweat the Technique or Sweat the Technique, I think a lot of it comes down to, because I enjoyed it, but I think I went into it me wanting to, you know what my problem was with that book? And it's not the book's problem, it was my problem, is I was expecting check the technique kind of perspective of Rakim. So I'm expecting him to talk about how'd you make Microphone Fiend, how'd you make My Melody, and that's not what that book was. So that's no knock on the book, because the book is incredibly great, but I think sometimes just for us as readers, we kind of have to, you know, look at what we're looking for, you know, what we're looking forward to, and versus what we get, because what we got was dope. But I think it just took me a while to kind of, like, I always say, like, if you go out to dinner and you order a Sprite and they give you a water by mistake, and you taste the water and you're like, you know, that's not the Sprite or water. There's nothing wrong with the water. You just had your mouth ready for that Sprite taste. So I think it took me a while to kind of really get to the book, because it was like, you know, I don't even think he talks about like the breakup until like 20 pages left. And I'm like, yo, we still ain't the Dre yet. I'm like in 20 pages, he broke down what a lot of it was. But it's an incredible book. I loved it. But that's what it was for me. Next book I have up, Have Gun Will Travel by Ronin Rowe. This is the beginning and the end of Death Row Records. This book is dope. Now, keep this in mind, y'all.
What's it called, Kim?
Have Gun Will Travel, written by Ronin Rowe. Ronin Rowe and Eddie, this was another thing about authors. Like, Ronin Rowe was like a big hip hop writer back when you had to love hip hop in order to be a hip hop writer. See, nowadays anybody can write about hip hop. Back in these days, when you had to get a publishing deal, when you could publish it yourself, but you had, so Ronin Rowe, like, his name was just always through the source, XXL Vibe. So it was like, okay, boom, Ronin wrote it, I'm on it. Now keep in mind, this book was written in 1998. So in 1998, this was like head explode emoji when you're hearing some of these stories about what went on at Death Row Records. Keep in mind, there's been a billion documentaries on Death Row. There have been a million TV series. There's been, so, you know, it may not be as mind-blowing now if you've watched all of that, but I still think, like Poor said, just like with a movie, you know, the book is always better than a movie. You're going to get a lot of behind-the-scene details of some of the crazy shit that went on Death Row Records. Like, crazy. You know what I mean? It gives you more detail into the whole Bad Boy Death Row beef. And I wish we would have, and I get it, the media had to take it and run with it, but if we just kept it as that, instead of saying the East Coast, West Coast war or whatever, it literally was a Death Row Bad Boy beef. That's what it was. You know what I mean? It wasn't the East versus the West. It was one label versus another label. But it gives you a lot of background, because a lot of people just think it just started with Quad Studio shooting the Pac, and this goes into everything that you would want to know. Now again, 1998. It's 2021, so a lot more of this stuff has come out, but I still say, you know, check out this book. Very, very dope book. Vern, what you got up for your fourth book, good brother?
How to Rap. It sounds basic and corny, but it is very dope and in-depth. The forward is by Kool G Rap. They interviewed Kane, Nelly, Mobb Deep, Black Eyed Peas, Tribe, Papoose, Royce the 5'9", Quick, Boot Camp Flicks, about 40 or 50 MCs, and it breaks down, you know, the content, where they get their lyrics from, the content forms, how the flow works, different rhyme patterns, rhyme schemes, rhythms, the writing process, beats and freestyling, structuring and editing and selecting lyrics, writing for other people, different vocal technique, breath control, writing in the studio, performing live. It's crazy, man. I got this book highlighted, and they break down like how the schemes and stuff are, man. So if you're an MC or you just love hip hop and you want to kind of get a backstory on how they coined lyrics and all that kind of stuff, definitely read this. It's How to Rap. It's science, the art and science of the hip hop MC. Who is this thing by? This is Edwards. By Paul Edwards. And the forward is by Kool G Rap.
All right,
Yeah.
dope.
I actually,
Oh.
I was gonna say I actually started reading that. I didn't get all the way through it, but I think I picked it up. I skipped around because there were some artists in there I didn't really care about, but I definitely need to go back to that one.
All right, dope. Riz, what you got up for number 4?
All right, so besides, so for everyone out there, after you read my book,
There you go. After.
Like,
I always suggest this book for anybody, and it's called The Art of Mixing. Now, this is like one of those books. It's not a cheap book, but it's by David Gibson. And when I was recording and really getting in my recording bag, and I wanted to now take it to the next level, which was mixing, this book really gave me a lot of insight into. It gave me a good roadmap because it's written. So so this is how he wrote it. He said, if you want the fast version, go through these pages. If you want the intermediate version, go through these pages. If you want to get intensive, read the whole book. So me reading the whole book, I understood that process, but he breaks everything down. And you might have missed the cover kill. It's called The Art of Mixing by David Gibson. And it really, he breaks down like how some people hear music. I don't know if you guys ever heard Kanye West do an interview. He said he sees music as like a painting or like colors, and some people see it as the instruments, and some people see it as shapes and all stuff. So he gives you all these different visual cues as he's talking about these very specific things. And the information that's in that book is invaluable to anybody who is now getting into their mixing bag. And I would definitely suggest that book to any engineer out there. Even if you have been doing it for a while, like with me, and I'll plug my book again. Like I was writing my book and I was saying to myself, would somebody like me who has had this much experience be interested in this book? And reading it back after it came back from editing, I can honestly say that yes, because you ever heard the saying, I forgot more than you learned, or I don't know how that saying goes, something like that, right? Well, that's kind of how I felt reading back through it. It was like, it gave me a different perspective from more of an experience on some of the basic things. Like, so you talk about shooting a free throw, it's always a work in progress. You know what I mean? You can always up your percentage. You can always go from being a 85% free throw shooter to a 90%. And that's how like these books for me work even now today. So I would suggest that book for anybody as well. It's called The Art of Mixing. Read that one after you read Ear Hustle and The Studio Blueprint.
That's what's up. Gerald, what you got for number 4, bro?
The Divided Soul, The Life of Marvin Gaye, by Dave Ritz. Oh, that book is, man, you really learn who Marvin is and the hardships that he dealt with that really kind of ended his life, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, that book, it was like a couple of times I had to kind of put it down because his childhood was ridiculous. Like, it was, whew, you know what I mean? But
give us one thing. Just give us something.
How his father used to just beat him for no reason. He'd be playing the piano and his father would just hit him just cause. And he was like 3 or 4 and had to deal with that. So he took a lot of that anger and that through his life, you know what I mean? And it really affected a lot of decisions he made and a lot of things like that. And finally, I guess, Marvin was always the type that was kind of shy, a kind of a shy soul, but you couldn't tell with his music though. You thought like he was just the best thing, but he was just such a shy soul, and he finally got the strength to stand up to his father, and that's the man who killed him. So it's like that, what David Ritz did with this, because David Ritz is dope as an author too. Like, he's written so many books. Like, another one he's written for Jerry Wexler, the guy that created Rhythm and Blues, and he wrote that book back in '93. That's a good book too. But this book here, it was just like he got with Marvin after he was the only one to understand what Hear My Dear was when it first came out. Everybody kind of said the album was trash. Nobody understood it. It was like, you're coming off of I Want You. So of course everybody wants something like that again. And Dave Ritz did a review in Rolling Stones, and Marvin was like, yo, I need to get with him. And they hooked up with each other, and Dave Ritz just, Marvin just started telling his life to him and told him all the way to his death. So David brought this book out like maybe a year after Marvin died.
It's funny you say that about the author being a writer for Rolling Stones, because Eddie, I think that's another way, for me, kind of like when I was saying with Ryan and Rowe, by him writing for the Sports and the XXL, that, at those times, those writers were the people who were passionate about the music. They knew about the music, because again, you can't work at Rolling Stones if you don't know shit. Whereas now you can start your own music blog and not know shit. You know what I mean? So again, it's like, that's why I'm always leery of a lot of newer books by authors I've never heard, because it's just like, who are you? Like, what's your background? I gotta know your pedigree to even be speaking on this. And we see it on the timeline every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's that was dope to kind of see how people linked up, because I'm assuming more people did that. You see somebody write a good review about you and you like, yo, I like the way, the boy write or whatever like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Porsche, what's your last book? Which number 5?
The Tao of Wu. I always talk about this book. I always recommend this book, and I always refer people to this book because
I got it because of you.
Yeah. Have you read it?
Yeah, I read it on the plane.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it did what it needed to do.
Yeah. It is actually like having these pages are what I would imagine a conversation with the RZA to be. Like, if I was going to have a conversation with the RZA in any setting, he would be telling me stuff from this book. Like, this is just spirituality. It's about, there's elements of Islam, there's elements of martial arts. He ties that in with his vision of the Wu, how he kind of came up with all of these sort of, how intricate the Wu was with martial arts, the chambers, and everything's divided up into pillars. There's quotes, there's it is just such a brilliant and insightful book filled with wisdom. Like, RZA is one of the smartest people ever. I don't know if you guys hear him talk in interviews, like, not about remedial things like, some beef with the Wu members or something like that. But when he actually talks about anything to do with the chambers or how he came up with this and the integration of the supreme powers and the 5%ers and all that kind of stuff, like, he is extremely smart. And it is all in here in very easy to read sort of language, and he talks about street stuff. He talks about spirituality, he talks about God, he talks about love, and ties everything together that way. So get the Tao, read the Tao. This is the one book that I've read probably 25 times. Every time I'm like in a lull, I'm like, let me go pick up the Tao, and I get through it. Like, it's just so easy and good to read, and it makes you feel good inside. Like, it really is like a soul stirring, happy feeling that you get reading this. It's really empowering in a way that's really special. So the Tao of Wu.
Right.
How many times does he say bong bong in the book?
None. He saved that for the versus battle.
I think his editor took it out.
Yeah, no kidding.
The last book I got, and I mean, hell, I'm like Porsche. Like, how were you last week? Where it's like, I'd say, give me 5 joints, how to start your rhyme, and you was like, I got like 30.
Yeah.
I got honorable mentions over here.
I got one.
The last one I'm gonna go with is Lenny Kravitz, Let Love Rule. This is one of the books that I actually finished last year, and I read it probably in 2-3 days. It's funny because when I said I was reading this, I said Lenny Kravitz is my favorite artist. Any genre walking the planet Earth right now. Like, and when I said this on the timeline, everybody's like, "You fuck with Lenny?" Like, dog, I fuck with Lenny. Like, seriously, it's this misconception that all I do is listen to hip hop, and there could be nothing further from the truth. You know what I mean? Like, I was on the timeline with somebody today talking about Job, and they was like, "Oh, you know about Job?" I'm like, "Dog, hip hop may be the least thing I know about." Okay, like, well, I won't say the least, but let's just say I can talk about so many other things in life, and that's kind of going to be what kind of some of my other books touch on. But this is just a great a book of Lenny, just about his growing up. If people don't know, Lenny Kravitz, mom Roxy Rocker, Helen Willis on the Jeffersons, was married to Lisa Bonet from the Cosby Show. Zoe Kravitz is his daughter. Again, I got put on to Lenny in '91 with Mama Said, and like, he's still making great music to this day. Like, you know what I mean? So this dude is like, I don't know if he's the last living rock star, how I look at rock stars, but like, this dude is a fucking star. Like, you know what I mean? And again, like, people like, "Oh, OG, I thought you would say Benny the Butcher is your favorite." And I'm like, I love Benny, but I mean, nigga, Benny just came out, you know, and I love Conway, but like, no, Lenny Kravitz is my favorite artist walking the planet Earth. Anybody out there who ever want to do anything nice for me, send me to a Lenny Kravitz concert. Send me anything Lenny. That's all you gotta do. And can never go wrong with me and Lenny. It's like getting me a chicken cheesesteak from Philly. So you can't never go wrong with this very dope book to check out. Like Jizza said on the Chappelle Show, diversify your funds. Don't just read all hip hop, read some other stuff too. Vern, what you got for your last?
I don't know about all that, Kill. I don't know about all that. I only read hip hop.
What happened?
I said I don't know about all that. All I read is hip hop.
Oh, I got you. Vern, what you got for your last one?
I got Herbie Hancock, Possibilities.
No.
Man. Bro, the iterations that this guy has gone through in his life, from playing with Miles and Tony Williams and Ron Carter to, you know, doing it. I mean, bro, it was almost career suicide, because he's straight ahead jazz pianist to do this stuff he did with the Headhunters, you know, and just and then to do the rocket stuff. And now he rocks with Terrace Martin and Kamasi and Thundercat and all them young boys out in LA, man. So that's why he never gonna go away, because he always reinvents himself. And again, this is one of the things I am so glad that I got to see him in person at Piedmont Park. You know, they had the Jazz Fest, and I got to see him, man. So definitely Herbie Hancock, man. This is a great book for a music lover, especially the jazz lovers in the game. So I'm gonna go with that one.
You know, something that you said, Vern, that I don't know if we talk enough about is just how important concerts are. Like, just how, you know, you like, yo, I took my mom to see Earth, Wind and Fire, and I went to see Herbie Hancock. And, you know, I think, you know, I don't know if enough people really understand how dope it is to go see, you know, artists that they love, you know, in concert. You know, a lot of times you get to see a different aspect of artists. You become fans of artists you weren't really fans of before, you know, because of the live show, you know, and something like that. LA Vern was saying something about Chris Brown's live show was like on par with Michael Jackson's. I'm like, bro, like, I saw the Victory Tour in '84. Ain't no show I've been to over 60, 70 shows since I was 10 years old. Ain't nothing fucking with the Victory Tour. You know, now, intelligently, I can't say I haven't been to a Chris Brown concert. And the reason why I'm bringing this conversation up is because
I have, and that ain't
a big difference between being at a concert and watching a concert on TV. Yep. So see, I have to realize a lot of folks didn't see Michael perform in his prime.
And it shows.
So maybe you saw him perform something on TV, or maybe you saw Motown 24. Nah, nigga, it's a big difference between watching Michael do the moonwalk while you sitting in your living room on an old 1985 television and being at the Victory show at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia and seeing it happen live. So, you know, I think that I'm sorry?
No, feeling that heat from that stage.
You know, so I just think that that's something else we don't talk about, you know, mixing in how you, and you've done it a couple of times tonight, you know, you mixing the book with the author along with the show, you know, and sometimes those three things, I don't think a lot of the younger generation understand that, you know, the shows we get now are like 3 mic to me. You know what I mean? because it's, especially with hip hop, it's literally come out on stage, yo, stop my shit, yo, play that shit, yo, stop, cut. Like, it's almost like these niggas just, I feel like I could get up on the stage and join them. Like, you know, I don't feel like there's really any band rehearsals, you know, the fresh fat. Like, we grew up at a time when shows were shows. Like, people put on shows. Like, you know, now I feel like it's like people just roll out of bed, like, okay, let me go do the show right quick. And, you know, so, you know, it just made me think about that, the way you were talking about the books with the shows. So what were you about to say?
So to piggyback on your Lenny Kravitz, Kanye West, it was Kanye West, John Legend, a bunch of other people. It was a free concert. This was before Kanye was Kanye. It was when the College Dropout came out. But Van Hunt opened for him. I didn't know who Van Hunt. Brother, listen. I'm a Van Hunt fan, dog. That dude, he's a bad man. And it was because I saw him live. After I saw him live, I copped everything he ever did.
Yeah. And that's why I say a lot of times until you see somebody live, especially if it's R&B, because it's going to be people playing instruments, you know what I mean? Versus somebody, you know, at hip hop shows, they got the DJ, but they ain't no scratching. They just on Serato and basically hit and start and stop all night. You know what I mean? Well, I always salute the Dungeon Family out of ATL, because that Dungeon Family show I went to see was crazy. Out of all the shows I've been to in DC, they were the only ones who had 2 DJs scratching live. I have not been to a hip hop show in 10 years and seen a DJ scratch live, except for the Dungeon Family tour. So, yeah, that's dope. Briz, what's your last one, good brother?
My last one is Tupac, A Rose That Grew from Concrete. It's a book of his poems. That's simple. But it does give you, it lets you, I guess you could say it lets you see how the sausage is made. Like it, like the stuff that came out of this brother wasn't just, oh, I want to rap just to get paid. It wasn't the intent behind, and Kill, we was talking about this a couple days ago. You know, what are you in this for? Like, you know, what are you in this for? And when you read this brother's poetry, posthumously, unfortunately, you then get the sense that this was always going to be this man's destiny. And the different personalities that you know surrounded him, you know, in his music as he was alive, and the bipolarism of the music that he put out, it was even evident in his poetry that he was writing as a youth, as a child. So it definitely resonated with me. So I'll always shout that. A Rose That Grew from Concrete.
Okay.
That's also becoming a harder book to get a hold of. So get it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I think I have it in the basement somewhere. That's another one I haven't given up. But yeah.
I thought someone took it, and I turned my house upside down looking for it, and I found it. Thankfully, I was like, oh. I thought someone like just, you know, walked out with it, and I was like, wait a minute, where is it? I literally turned my house upside down and I found it. So
that's what's up.
Yeah.
JR, what's your last joint, brother?
About my favorite singer, Gladys Knight, her autobiography Between Each Line of Glory and Pain. I want to know about her. So if she's my favorite singer, I definitely want to know about her. So she came out with the book in '97. My mom got it for me, and I read it, and I knew her true feelings, what she felt about Motown, which kind of hurt. She like really went in.
Call me ignorant, but again, I'm gonna ask the question most folks don't want to. She was on Motown, or she wasn't?
They were on Motown. She just didn't want to. Yeah. She just didn't want to go, and the only reason why they went was because her brother was the deciding vote, and they went and signed with Motown.
Didn't want to go to Motown. Where did she want to go?
Because she knew that they were gonna not get the respect that they deserved. She knew they weren't gonna be like the Temps, and they got all the hand-me-downs. They got all the stuff that, you know, they was doing Temp songs over. They were doing, you know, the Miracle song over. Then they would get writers that just came, and it was just.
Is that why they had? I heard it through the grapevine too. Like, was that after somebody else already had it?
Well, the Miracles had it first, but they didn't. Barry didn't like the arrangement, so he gave it to them. They did it, and it became a big, huge hit. But then Marvin came a year later and did his, and his got more notoriety. And she was like, what she felt as though is Motown was always about Motown. It was never about the artist. It was all about them. So it was like nobody. That's why you had so many people coming out with the same songs all the time, because it was all about pushing the company rather than the artist. And she kind of knew that when they got there. She was like, yo, we're going to get thrown under. Nobody's going to care. And that's just what it is. And it ended up happening. They had hits there, but it was like they never was able to tour with them. It was a lot that they went through. And Diana kicked her off the tour. Like, it's crazy.
So, like, songs like Neither One of Us, is that on Motown or that's post?
That was actually on Motown, but they had already left. They left Motown, and then Motown released that single when they left and went to Buddha to try to, it was like, all right, since y'all gone, all right, we're going to put this single out and put so much promo behind it. Of course, Gladys and them had to get on it, and of course, they ended up performing the song, and it's a big hit. But Motown, she was like, well, damn, that's the first time y'all put all the promotion behind it, we ain't even there. So, yeah.
That's amazing to me that her brother is the one who made the last vote, because I would be like, nigga, you a pip. Like, pips don't get no vote. Like,
but actually, they was a group before her.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's actually good. That's good.
Yeah. Because they normally agree with each other, but her brother was smart. You needed Motown for that exposure, so you could get that. So she wasn't thinking about that. She was like, I'd rather go to chess. I'd rather go to Stacks. I want to go somewhere where we will be appreciated. Her brother was like, I'm looking at it as a business. We need exposure.
So tell me this. If she doesn't go to Motown, do you think Gladys isn't as big as what she ended up being?
I don't think so.
But and the only reason why I'm asking is because, like you're saying, they didn't promote her. They didn't put anything behind her.
That's fine. That's true. But she still ended up getting hits like Neither One of Us and Heard It Through the Grapevine and If I Were Your Woman. And, she did get hits. So, you know what I'm saying? But it's just they needed that notoriety, because before then they wasn't getting it. They were touring. They were doing the Chitlin circuit and nothing. But as soon as they got the Motown and got that hit, it was like, oh, this is who they are.
When we get off camera, remind me to tell you something, because I got an idea that I think would be dope, but I don't want to say it. Just remind me. I will.
So that's my last book.
All right. Porsche, any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I have one. The Dapper Dan Made in Harlem, the memoir book.
I heard about that book.
This book it's honestly, it's a memoir, but it's written in such a I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's written almost like a novel. And Dapper Dan had a very, very, very interesting life, literally out the gate, like from jump. And it just goes through his, passion for, it didn't start off as a passion for fashion, so to speak, but it became that, out of supporting his family and whatnot. And his life is literally, this book could be a movie. And it would be a very, very good movie, because there's like, the underworld in it. There's like the gangster part. There's like the streets. There's the, getting himself to the top from the bottom, literally. It talks about how he was like sleeping in the back of the store, would not go home for days. He had to fulfill client orders and stuff, like just everything. And then he goes back and forth between like a memory and then ties it into the experience. And you go through sort of Dapper Dan's entire life, and his writing is immaculate. It's just so attention grabbing all the time. So if you're interested in Dapper Dan and sort of what he did for hip hop fashion and high end couture fashion, this book, you will love it. And I also have to say, there's little like details like this, like clothing patterns or like belt patterns and things like that he puts in here that sort of gives you the experience. So this is a really, really great book, and it's new. So this one I don't think is going to be out of print very soon, but I think it was just printed in 2019. So you should still be around.
Dope. Vern, you got any honorable mentions, good brother?
On the music side, Book of Rhymes, The Poetics of Hip Hop by Adam Bradley. It really breaks down intricately how MCs like do slant rhymes and internal rhymes and things of that nature. It breaks down 3 Stacks verse in the day in the life of Andre Benjamin or whatever. I forgot the title. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's very dope and very intricate from a poetic standpoint of hip hop and rhyming.
All right, dope. Anything else? Any other?
Other books are you gonna talk about other books besides?
Yeah, I'm gonna go last because I got a whole 18-wheeler. So go ahead and get everything.
Okay, I'm back. What'd you say, Kill?
No, I was saying, yeah, go ahead. You can say all of them.
All right. Oh, this book should be required reading for anybody in America to read. The Warmth of Other Suns. It talks about the Great Migration. I love this book.
Who's it written by?
What's that again, bro?
The Warmth of Other Suns is written by Isabel Wilkerson. It tracks the life of 4 or 5 different black people who migrated from Mississippi, Florida, during that time. It's incredible, man. Steve Vivian Stringer's book, Standing Tall.
Yes, sir.
Got a chance to meet her on the circuit. Love that book. Vietnam War Buff, Bloods by Wallace Terry. It talks about black soldiers in Vietnam. The Love There. Mary. We're hitting for 25 years this year. I was in my music room early one morning, like stressed out, like, Lord, I'm frustrated. We at each other's neck. I was sitting on my beanbag chair praying. I looked up and that book was on the bookshelf. He said, read it again. And so implement this. Is very simple, but you implement these things, it'll help your relationship. 2 more.
And bro, slow down, good brother. What was that one? What was the love joint?
I'm sorry. The Love There is by who is this by? Stephen and Alex Kendrick.
All right.
The Wire, Truth Be Told. That's by Rafael Alvarez. You already know about that. And then the last one I'm gonna do is What Makes the Great Great by Dennis Kimbrough, same guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich and Black Perspective. Very insightful, inspirational. So those are my picks.
All right, no doubt. Porsche JR, what you got left?
I just got. Do I got 2? I think so. Well, one of them is the Temptations, the Otis Williams book. That was good. They used that for the movie. And then I already talked about it. It's another. I love To Kill a Mockingbird. I love that book. I love it.
The whole They Ain't Come to See You, Otis. That's in that book, or that was just for the movie?
No. Oh, and Leon added that in there. Okay. We even talked about that on. Sure did. Yeah, he added that in there, but nah, that's not in there. But yeah, Otis's book is really, really good. It's thick, but it was really, really a good book. So that, and then one of my favorites is To Kill a Mockingbird. I love the book and the movie. So,
all right, no doubt. I got just everybody sit back, get your popcorn, because I got a rack of books because I never get to talk about books. Number 1, and y'all know me, I love hoops, just like I love hip hop. 5 hoop books. The Last Shot by Darcy Frey. Very dope book. It's about 4 teenagers from Brooklyn, Coney Island, going to Lincoln High School. 3 of them seniors trying to get into college. One of them is a freshman, Stephon Marbury. Definitely a dope book. Definitely check this out. Only the Strong Survive, The Odyssey of Allen Iverson. Very, very dope book. If you mess with AI, you got to read this book. My favorite college coach ever, God bless the dead, just passed away, John Chaney. Chaney playing for a legend. A lot of people, they go to those inspirational speakers and stuff like that. That's really not my bag. My bag is reading college coaches' books because I think it's amazing for you to be able to get, especially nowadays with these players who are just one and done, to try to get, 14, 16 people to all play for one mindset. Like, I'll read this and then try to implement some of these things in my marriage and my family with my team. So I'm always reading a coach's book. I love this. The Jump about Sebastian Telfair, Stephon Marbury's cousin out of Coney Island. Very, very dope book. They had the documentary done on his life. Very dope book. And one of my other favorite books, The Best Seat in the House by Spike Lee.
Yes, sir.
94, 95, Spike Lee, courtside, talking shit to Reggie Miller, Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
If you're my age, you will appreciate the memory.
Man.
Like, you will just
I need to cop that one.
I want to cop that.
You will be remembering those Knick battles. You will be remembering all that stuff. For the people who weren't there, you will be able to kind of get a gist on who Spike Lee is and why he's a Knick staple. One of my favorite stories he goes into when Allen Iverson plays Stephon Marbury at Georgetown and Georgia Tech at Madison Square Garden in '95, and how Steph's brothers Allen won the game, and how Steph's brothers just gave it to him. Like, to the point that Bobby Crimmins was like, I don't know what to do. Like, yo, the Marburys like 6-7 brothers, and he was like, because they like, you don't let that country nigga come in here, and you can let him come in your city and your borough and win. So just a very, very dope book. Now, off of that, on the timeline, I'm talking about so many different things. So for all my producer heads out there, this book right here, Behind the Beat, very dope book to get. It shows you different producer studios. You got Dilla's studio. You're going to so many different people's studio. This is E. Swift from the Alcoholics. So if you're a gear junkie like I am, like this is, you're just talking about books and pages of just. They go to D&D with Primo. If you just want to see studio footage, this is great. And then he has another book that comes out of that called Back to the Lab. Same thing, just, more producers. Again, I can look at studio equipment literally all day, never get tired of it. They go to Lord Finesse's crib with the records and everything like that. So that's for that. For my people out there who want to do scripts like I do, you got this joint, Uplift the Race, The Making of School Days with Spike. Very dope book. It gives you the whole entire script, gives you a lot of background about how he had to make the movie. Vern already talked about it for all my wireheads. Vern already said it, but definitely a dope book. For all my sneakerheads out there, Where Did You Get Those by Bobbito. Very, very dope book. Goes into the history of all the different kinds of sneakers. If you know anything about Bob, he's a sneakerhead. The dope part was my homegirl Vic brought him out here to DJ. She's like, Kill, I need a favor. Can you go pick up Bob and take him digging and all of that? I'm like, nigga, can't I? So got an opportunity to chop it up with Bob. It was an old book. For my Philly people, you got this joint right here, Black Brothers Inc., all about the Black Mafia out of Philly. So this is for all my Philly folk out there. For all my marriage people, Joyce Myers, Help Me, I'm Married. Very, very dope book right there. For all of my low heads, y'all know how I feel about my low. You got Low Life right there. Very dope book too. For all of my diggers, you have Dust and Grooves. Just a whole entire book just about records and people's record collections and just everything. Again, they're back with Lord Finesse. You get to see Quest Record Room. Just a very, very dope book. And a book that it's funny, I was chilling one day, and I don't know why, but I'm listening to Chi Ali, the Roadrunner remix, and I'm chilling in a barbershop, and I'm like, nigga look like Chi Ali. Nigga, it is Chi Ali. The fuck is Chi Ali doing in Waldorf, Maryland, in the barbershop? But he was in there, so I had to cop his Life, Another Kind of Freedom. For people who don't know, Chi Ali was down to native tongues. He caught a body, went to jail, kind of never heard from him again. So I was always interested in his story. What happened? How did you even get down with the native tongues? You was a little kid with age ain't nothing but a number. Then, the next thing you know, you done shot somebody and, we never heard from you again. So again, I'm halfway through this book. The only thing about this book is, Jesus Christ, these words are small. I don't know if y'all can see that, but these words are you got to get the magnifying glass with these 46-year-old eyes. So I think those are all the books. We can talk about Creative License. This is a book about how Paul's Boutique and Public Enemies, It Takes a Nation couldn't be made right now because it's
Ample Brown.
Got the ultimate sneaker book. You talk about encyclopedias. This is like an encyclopedia for sneakers. So again, I'm a bookworm. That's all books, records. I got 2 bookcases downstairs. I got books in the attic. Every time you see me pop my head down on the screen, I got books under the studio stuff. So again, if you ever need to know any good things about any of the books, anything, Apartment 5B Squad is definitely a dope place to go. And another book I will shout out that's laying over here is The Hip Hop, The Legends of Hip Hop, Justin Boo, one of my favorite artists. And the pen game, if you've never seen his work, is incredible. You know, you got Bam. You know, just very, very dope book. Big Daddy Kane, just a dope book. You know, dope art, everything like that. Again, Justin Boo, you can kind of see you got Snoop, Eminem, Lauryn Hill, Slick Rick. So, the legends of hip hop. Yes, sir.
I can't. If you love Devil in a Blue Dress, if you love Devil in a Blue Dress, and okay, if you love Snowfall, especially the last episode, that's that man right there, Walter Mosley.
Legend.
Yes.
Legend.
Bad man. Yes, sir. I've got like 12 of them. He got about another 25, so I got a couple. Yeah.
So I got a question for you all. With all the books you've all read, is there any book? It could be on any artist, on any era, label, whatever. Is there any book that you would want to see that maybe hasn't been written yet or you haven't read yet? Like any subjects regarding music. Let's keep it to music.
I would say this. First thing that came to mind, I would love a book written about Loud Records in the 90s. I mean, Steve Rifkin signing the Wu, having Ray, having the Beatnuts, having Pete Rock and CLs. I mean, not Pete Rock, he Pete Rock solo. You had the Alcoholics. I mean, the Loud just roster was just crazy, and kind of how they came up and what they did. I would love more stuff about those labels. That's why we did one of the episodes of 5B about the dopest record labels not named Def Jam. Because I feel like, Def Jam is always going to be there. So, we're shouting out Loud, we're shouting out Duck Down, we're shouting out all these different labels. And I would just love a book to talk about more so about like, how that even get started, because most of these people are all coming from the gutter. You know what I mean? So it's like you're signing bad record contracts, but then you're starting a label. You know what I mean? So it always was like bugged to me, like, because I'm like out here in interviews, Buckshot like, yo, we got jerked by Nervous, which is why they started a record label. So I'm assuming they went out and did the knowledge on all of that. So that off top, that's what I would think.
Yeah, for me, along the lines, like you said, Loud, for me, it would probably be Raucous, just how that, movement started and, everyone who was involved with that. So I think that would be dope.
I love to see a story or a book about the Native Tongue crew.
Oh.
And I need something from the Isley Brothers, man. Any group that has had hits from the 50s to the 2000s, we got to read about that, bro.
That's shocking. I'm shocked they don't have anything.
I haven't seen anything. I'll look for it.
I'm shocked. What about you, JR? Briz?
I don't know if there is one yet or not, and I should probably do some homework into it. But I'd like to see a book, maybe by like Bob Johnson or somebody like one of the executives that kind of just trailblaze with like BET and stuff like that, just to kind of see the process. I'm more into like I like the history of like the process, like the thinking of how something became, like the trials and tribulations, the strategies used to make something like that happen.
That's dope. JR?
I want a book on Norman Whitfield. I have not seen one on him yet, and I want one on him.
Now, JR, can you explain who's Norman Whitfield?
Norman, basically, a lot of people know him from being the producer of Car Wash. That's what everybody kind of knows Norman Whitfield as. But he was with Motown first. He was actually in the quality, was actually picking songs to go out. That's where he started. Then he went from there. Then he became a producer, and he was kind of like, was always kind of a friendly competition between him and Holla Doja Holland. But I would love to read a book about him and how he created his own label after leaving Motown and all that. So I would really love a book on Norman Whitfield.
That's dope. What about you, Porsche?
I personally would just like our pioneers and legends who haven't written books. Like, for example, Chuck D is part of a lot of books. Like, he writes a lot of forewords. He's quoted a lot. He's involved with a lot of authors. He has his hand on the pulse of the publication world, which is fantastic. But I would love to see like MC Lyte write a book of herself. I would love to see Queen Latifah write a book about herself. I do have a book. I don't have it with me right now, but it's like over there. But it's about the female hip hops. Like it's just hip hop on the female side. But it's somebody else writing it about, you know, all these female MCs. I would like to see books by those MCs writing about themselves and their journey, their process, their history, and all that kind of stuff. Like, for example, Scarface's Diary of a Madman is amazing. Like, I love, and I didn't answer Eddie's question when he said, how do you guys vet authors? I always research, I love and I prioritize getting books by said author about themselves. So that's something that I look for in everything. And if I can't get that, then I go to authors that I know are reputable, and it's a rabbit hole kill, like you said. Like, you read about an author, you research who they are, and then it just connects you to all their work and then other people that they're connected with, and I sort of make a judgment call that way. So I don't just buy things because I like the subject matter. I need the author to be based on my criteria, which I'm not going to get into, but I need them to do that. So I like to have my pioneers, my favorites, my legends write books about themselves, because that will just stay, you know?
Right. It's funny you said the rabbit hole portion. Made me think of when I first started digging. You know what I mean? And you find out, you know, Primo sampled this person, you know, and then you're looking at the credits and you're like, well, he sampled the piano, so who's playing the piano? Okay, that person's playing the piano, so let me start sampling that. Start looking for
and
those.
that's exactly how it is with authors for me. Exactly the same way. So when people always like recommend books, and I'm like, I've seen that author. I'm not gonna get it. Like, thank you for your suggestion, but it's not gonna pass. It's not my criteria. So I'm a pass.
No doubt. A couple of books I forgot going off. I've always been talking about this, The History of the Juice Crew. Very dope book. I'm in the middle of reading this book, Prince, The Beautiful Ones. This is the last book he was working on before he passed. And for all my comic book heads, people don't know I love comic books. I got this book, of course you'll love this. It's called Batman Has to Put Gas in the Batmobile. No, I'm lying.
I thought you were serious.
I mean, he does. He does have to drive to the crime scene.
He's just like us.
But the thing that I love about this book is written like it's Batman's like journal. So like it's written like with pictures of like everything that he had to go through to become Batman. It has the designs of the Batwing. So it's literally written as like, you know, he died and he's like leaving all his secrets to like the next person to take over. So if you are a Batman person, I definitely think that you would love this book. So that's it for me. Again, I appreciate the good brother who gave us the idea to do this show. I have no idea how I've been doing the podcast all these years and then talking about books. To be honest with you, I just felt like it'd be boring, you know, and I think we have an audience now, so I think we're now at a point where we can kind of do more so what we want. But I think when I was getting started, it was like, don't nobody want to hear about health. Don't nobody want to talk about, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's good to see now that like we've kind of pulled enough people in that, you know, we can start throwing some things, different topics around and stuff like that. So now I just got to put all this shit back. So
yeah, me too. That's what I'm saying.
That's why I'm just looking around and like,
well, I'm like buried in books too.
It was exciting as hell getting ready for the show. Now it's like, you know, at Christmas after you got to put the tree up and
no kidding.
Looking around at all these books. Riz, let them know where they can get at you. Talk about the book one more time, good brother.
Sure, man. So, again, 20-year veteran, as Kill pointed out, 10 years with legendary producer crew, Cool and Dre, right at the right time of life. Like we hit with Hated to Love It, New York, that whole sound of bringing soul records with the Miami drum beat. So, with that and that experience, decided I wanted to write a book that can give people who wanted some insight into audio engineering, give them that dry run so that they can hit the ground running. Think about it this way. If you wanted to go to an audio school, you could at least take the first semester off just by copying Ear Hustling, the Studio Blueprint, which is an introduction to recording arts. You can find it at my website, airhustlingmedia.com. You can also find it on Amazon, both the physical and digital copy, or Apple Books. You can find that, the digital copy as well. You can find me on Instagram at Briz_earhustling, or at Ear Hustling the book. DM me, like if you have any questions about anything that has to do with audio engineering. I'm always answering questions on there. A lot of the people that ended up buying the book started out just by asking me a bunch of questions that I try to give them a different way of thinking about things. And you can also find me on Twitter at Ear Hustling Book. So please, just whatever you do, reach out to me. I'll be able to help. That's what I'm here for. That's what engineers do. So that's what I'm here to do as well. So thank y'all. Thanks everybody for listening out. Thank you, Kill. Thanks, Porsche, Eddie, Vern, JR. Found like a new family over here, man. I really love it, man. I appreciate y'all.
No doubt. Please tell them a little bit about how you're donating books too, how someone can buy a book.
Yeah, absolutely. So if the book is, or if you're not particularly interested in audio engineering, but you may know somebody who is, you can always buy a book and give it to them. If that isn't enough, or you don't have that kind of act, like you don't know someone like that, I'm also partnering with nonprofit organizations like Guitars Over Guns that has 2 chapters, one in Miami and one in Chicago, that work with at-risk youth who want to just give them an alternative, give them an introduction to music. So you can also buy a book, and that the proceeds from that book will go to 3 books for a nonprofit in that way. If you have somebody that you know is incarcerated or is coming home that may have an interest in something like that, you can also donate a book that way. So you go to my website, you can always hit me on contact if you have any questions, and we'll work it out. So definitely there's always an opportunity to do something for somebody. I started this whole thing talking about how I give all my books away because I know that a lot of people aren't going to go out there and get it, and it may be more valuable just passing it along that way. So if that's something that you want to do as well, please feel free. Hit me up. I'll definitely make it happen.
And again, good people, it doesn't make sense to spend all this money on these machines and MPCs and all of that stuff and then don't know what the hell you're doing. So just when you're budgeting, just throw another $50 on the budget just to, cop this book so that you can know what you're doing. Eddie, give them all your information about freestyles and everything you got going on, good brother.
No doubt. Freestyles.com, honestly, I kind of let in, I've been having a lot of personal stuff going on, personal and family stuff. So I haven't been pushing out a whole lot of new content lately, but, I'm actually preparing to revamp. I got some new ideas. I'm trying to revamp, but I got content on there right now. So I know there's a lot of people that have checked it out. For y'all who haven't, there's still some dope content on there. So check it out. You can catch me on Twitter at EddieD80, on Instagram at Freestyles.
All right, no doubt. Vern, the closer. Where can they get at you, man?
Yo, on Instagram at VTheLoneCloser, on Twitter at VChandler10. Before I go, shout out to our brother Trey Lee, Glory. Cop the album, cop the book. Quality content.
I think the book should be going out. All pre-orders should be going out tomorrow. So looking forward to getting that joint. To me, that's the exciting thing that prayerfully next time we do this, we'll be talking about Briz's book after reading it. We'll be talking about Glory after, and it's been putting the battery in my bag because I've had about 2 or 3 books in me for the past 5 years that I just haven't had the time to write. So, having you two brothers on the show has definitely, been like, all right, Jay, I know you rolling your eyes, but bro, I do 50 million things. That's like the thing. Oh no, I thought you was rolling your eyes like, Kill, I've been told you to write a book. Oh my God.
Yeah, I did. No, you're right. But you was talking about something else, but you're right. Yeah. You're right.
One of my questions to y'all is gonna be, where do y'all find time to read? Because I literally I'm up from 9 a.m. to about 3 a.m. trying to edit 5B and make beats and finish a script and do. So it's just, I just have to find a day where I could just be like, you know what, I'm not doing nothing, you know, and just try to just sit down and focus, you know, on a book, you know.
Definitely a lack of sleep, man. I got 2 4-year-old twins running around here from sun up to sundown, and my only time really is when I'm in the bed, and that's when I wrote a lot of it. Like when I was just sitting in the bed up in the middle of the night doing it, just because I couldn't, like I spent all day thinking about what I was going to put in. So that, and making sure that I gave myself an end date. Like I gave myself, I started the process my birthday 2019 and said I was going to have it finished by my birthday 2020. And so by putting my deadline on there, I was able, there were a couple months I was just flying through it. It was a couple months where there was a lag, and I knew like I had enough cushion because I flew through the first, like, you know, so it was able to go through that. So definitely by giving yourself a deadline is definitely one way to make sure that you get your things done, your goals hit.
That's right. JR, where can they get at you, brother?
For the R&B Raps, our radio show, we just did our show with Carmen Rogers, which was dope. It was amazing. We got our Catch That, which is our new show that we got, which we've done. So we just did a dope interview tonight, which was dope. So catch us in the R&B Reps. R&B Reps, RnBreps.com, and there. And catch me on JR's World of Soul, and hers is Naturally Elise. So yeah.
All right, no doubt. You already know this with me. Kill889, Twitter, IG. We'll make beats for food again. I just looked this, y'all. Growing old is something. I just looked at the date, and by the time I closed this book, I forgot the date that quick. Monday, March 29th, we will be doing our book club for Rough House by Chris Schwartz. Cop the book, read it, join us, chop it up about us. This is a great starting point for anybody who doesn't know where to start with a book or I don't know what to do. You know, to me, it's nothing doper than getting a referral. I think I brought this book first portion and you brought it, but of course you read it first. So like I said, I actually got the referral of it being dope from her. And then to me, it's nothing doper than starting when you have a community. You know, when I first started digging and I didn't know what I was doing, it was going out with my OG Roots and Bezo and Shadi and digging with other people who, you know, can kind of get you into the mix, and then you kind of just take over. So please cop the book, check it out, all that good stuff. I'll check y'all next week, man. Great show, man. Great show.
Peace.